Hello, good evening. My name is Richard. This is Over and Over and Over Again. It's the Arsenal review. It's the season review. The season's finished, and we are going to look back at the highs and the lows. We're going to go through the different competitions that we're in. We're going to rate it all out of 10, and we're going to give out some end of season awards as well. So it's all going to be fun. If anyone there wants to come in and give your opinion on the season or vote for some of the awards, then the link is in the chat there. Just click on it and come in the studio for 5 minutes and give us your thoughts on what's been happening. And it's all going to be coming up the other side of this. And joining us is Steve. We've got Neil coming as well. Steve, good to have you back on the channel. It's been a while, my friend. How are you?
Oh, mate, so good to be back. So good to be online. And with your good self as well. Thank you for having me on. Sorry, we've had a bit of a work life and everything else has been in the way, mate. But I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. End of the season. Absolutely gutted. Gutted we've got no football.
Yeah, I mean, it's the end of the season. I think maybe, it'd be quite nice to have a week or two break, and then we'll be itching for a game again, won't we? I'm sure very soon. But yeah, the end of the season is upon us now. What I wanted to do was go through it all, kind of look at each competition. There were 4 competitions that we started the season in, so we're going to go through each one, just quickly assess what we've made of it. Certainly the 3 cup competitions won't take too long because we didn't last very long in any of them, so we'll look at them before we finish, obviously, at the Premier League campaign, which we'll look at in a little bit more detail because that was the main one. So yeah, so the best place to start, I suppose, because it won't take very long at all, is this. So it was a good run, wasn't it, while it lasted, for one game at home to Brighton, just before the World Cup. Yeah, I mean, obviously the team selection on that particular night and in the cup competitions in general tended to suggest where our priorities lie this season, and it certainly wasn't the Carabao Cup. Now, yes, I know a lot of people felt, okay, fair enough, it's not that important. It's the 4th on our list of competitions in priority. Fair enough, I totally agree. But I always like good cup runs, and the League Cup in all its different guises has been quite good to us over the years, hasn't it? George Graham's first trophy was winning the League Cup. We won the cup double that year. It's been a good competition in the past, but now the priorities, it has slipped down the list, and Brighton, as we saw throughout the season, a very good side, and if you're not quite at your best or play your best team against Brighton, there's always a chance they can beat you. And that was what happened. I mean, fair play to Brighton. It had a good performance from them. They done well. They won the game. But, I mean, were you particularly bothered, Steve, about the Carabao Cup? I know Man United ended up winning it, but were you bothered that we went out so early?
So 2 or 3 things for me when I look at that. I'm bothered about every cup. Like, I know I've said I've said, is it ranking up there with Champions League? No. But every cup we should be serious about. When we look at our squad depth and the way that we could have rotated some of those youngsters in and out properly, and not actually driven our own players into the ground as what's happened. Yeah, I was disappointed. I've been disappointed in all of them, to be honest. So it's important. It's absolutely important. Rio Ferdinand turned around the other day. It was interesting. I mean, it was interesting. Look, the Harry Maguire of the 90s, if I'm honest with you. So Rio turned around and said, Manchester United have a better season because they won the Carabao Cup. And I think he's kind of got a point. I kind of understand where he's coming from, because, Man United took it seriously. They put their best teams out. They played absolutely to the end, and they won a cup. So was that as important as maybe the FA Cup to me? Probably not. And Europa League, definitely not. But it's still a cup competition. We've got players that were sitting on there that should have got the time, that should have got the opportunity, but instead we play our same team. And when we get to the actual league piece, I've got a few things on it. So no, for me, yes, it's important. Right? Am I upset that we lost? Absolutely, I hate us losing. I absolutely hate it when we lose. So Rich, no, I and I know you're passionate about all the cup runs, and I'm with you on it. So I think it shows lack of depth within our team, a rigidity in a way to rotate players in and out. And ultimately, we've paid a price for that. So no, I am upset, and we should have gone for it, and we should go and fight for every single competition we possibly can. Look at Man City fighting on 3 fronts. going through. And Pep doesn't want to lose anything. Whatever we think about him, whatever we think about that team, right? They do not want to lose. I don't want to lose. I don't want to go to the Emirates and watch us lose. Never, mate. And that's just how I feel.
No, I agree, and I don't think we are at a position. I mean, Manchester City maybe could pick and choose which competitions they want to really go for because they've got the squad to do it. We maybe don't. So for me, we can't really pick and choose a competition. We can't dismiss anything because, as Rio Ferdinand says, and I don't often agree with him, but I think he has got a point. Man United have finished third in the league and they've won a cup, and they're in another cup final on Saturday. Let's not forget. So they could win 2 cups, right? Yeah. And that is a much better season than what we've had. But I don't think anyone says they've got a trophy for it. And had we won a trophy and finished second or third, then to me, that would have been a fantastic season. And I think we'd all be sitting here now over the moon with the fact that this young team had got us a trophy. Whatever one it was, any of the 4 would have done. Obviously, one more than the others, we know. But I would have liked to. The good thing about the League Cup for me is most of the bigger teams don't always play their strongest team because they've got other priorities. And, in the end, it was Newcastle and Man United in the final. We finished 3rd and 4th. So it was 2 of the better teams got to the final again. But I would have fancied our chances if we could have got through a couple of rounds, and we know we can beat Man United, we know we can beat Newcastle, so why couldn't we have won it? And it wouldn't really, in the end, in hindsight, it's a wonderful thing. It wouldn't have affected our league position necessarily. No. We still would have finished in the top 4. And to me, I was a little bit disappointed with the manner that we went out so early in a competition before the World Cup as well. There was a break coming up. Just play a stronger team. Let's go for it and try and get through. But we didn't, and we're out. And at the end of the day, at the time, I don't think anyone was overly bothered because we were top of the league and what have you. But I'm always disappointed with a cup defeat because there's only how many seasons do you get when you win a cup? Not that many. So every opportunity, every season, there's cups to win, and you should try and win them if you can. And we threw that away a little bit too easily for me. I didn't like it, but it is what it is. We went out. Fair play to Brighton on the night. They were the better team. They beat us well, and they've had a great season, haven't they? So I think
we've seen 2 or 3 teams right in the Prem right now. We've seen 2 or 3 teams that, to me, have absolutely, like Fulham, absolutely like next level. Brighton, absolutely scary. Where everybody's going, Brighton, they're not all that. And you understand, but well organised, well drilled, play really well, got some exciting players. The whole thing that sits around it, Fulham the same. So you can kind of see why something like the Carabao Cup will be so important to them, because as you say, if you've got someone like, I'm sorry, mate, I keep seeing the pillow behind me keep coming through in my background. But you're right. It's when you see the likes of Man City maybe not take it as serious as they possibly could, right? Then you're absolutely right. Yeah, it's an opportunity for a club to actually win to win a cup. Have the kudos, make the fans happy. I went for a stadium tour recently. I just digress ever so slightly. And what was amazing is looking at all of those cups that we'd won and the history. And any Arsenal fan that's out there, I'd strongly recommend actually go out and do the tour if you can. Do the tour. I saw David Seaman there.
Oh, brilliant.
You saw, I was too tight to do the Heroes Tour or whatever they call it. But I sort of, we went out and you look at the history of this club. And that's not to say that it gets given to us on a plate. Definitely not, mate. It's definitely not. You've got to have the team, you've got to have the right people. But it's the heritage. It's what's happened. It's what's gone on in the past. So take it seriously. But the teammate, you're right. We had the World Cup coming up. So throw your best team in. Half of our players weren't even in the World Cup, for God's sake.
No, exactly. Yeah. No, you're right. Yeah, 100%. But, we didn't. We lost and we was out early and that was that. So we could put that to one side. Didn't take long to talk about the Carabao Cup, and we got one game. And another cup competition came along quite soon after the World Cup. And again, that didn't last particularly long either, but at least we got 2 games out of this one. Now, I know it's for a good cause, the white kit and all that kind of stuff, right? It's a great cause and we love it, but we lost the last time we played in it against Nottingham Forest in the FA Cup. I was a little bit concerned when we used it again against Oxford, but this time it worked out okay. We won 3-0 in the 3rd round, and it was a typical sort of lower league team playing a Premier League team in the FA Cup, wasn't it? For a long time, they made it difficult for us. They worked hard. We struggled to really create too much. And then eventually in the second half, our fitness may be told and our extra bit of quality told. And we got the goals in the second half, didn't we? We won the game 3-0. Nice and easy. Eddie got a really good goal, didn't he? Eddie's second goal when he kind of dinked it over the keeper was a really good finish, actually. And it showed what he can do against that sort of level of opposition.
I was going to say, shame he didn't do it in the Prem, but, that's another story.
He should be playing maybe at that level. He'd get a lot of goals, wouldn't he? Let's be honest. But, I mean, it was, again, we rotated the team for that game. And you think, fair enough, it's Oxford away. We should have enough to win. And we did. And that was great. The third round, brilliant. I enjoyed the game. And it was nice to play against a team that we haven't played against for a long time as well, due to the fact that they haven't been in the top flight for such a long time, whatever. So that was nice. But then, of course, in the fourth round, we got the draw. Nobody would have wanted Man City away. And, of course, again, at the time, top of the league that we were, priorities maybe looked elsewhere. And I don't know, I looked on that game beforehand, and I think we spoke about it on the show at the time, that it was an opportunity to go to Man City. We knew they wasn't going to play their first choice 11. We knew they'd make changes, go there and really make a statement and show Man City that we could compete with them and beat them. And that's what we needed to do in that game. And we didn't. It was a very limp Arsenal performance, wasn't it? And although it was only 1-0 and people say, 1-0 was not too bad, we had a few chances at the beginning. Trossard nearly scored when it was 0-0.
1-0, 100-0. But it's still a loss. You still lost.
Exactly. It is. And we didn't go there and show them anything to make them fear. We still had to play them twice in the league at that time. And it's like we could have had an opportunity to go there and show them, actually give them something to think about, that, it's not going to be easy in the two games that we had to play them in the league. And we went there. It was a bit of a limp performance. We went out. And again, it was a matter of maybe Arsenal fans thinking, it doesn't matter too much. We've got the league to worry about. But for me, the FA Cup's our cup. We've won it the most times. It's our cup competition. If we're not going to take that seriously, and it's the competition that's basically kept Arteta in his job when things were going badly, because he had won the FA Cup, and I'm sure that was a factor. He'd won a trophy, and that was the one that he'd won. So I was very disappointed again with the manner. You can take going out of a cup competition. It happens. It's a one-off game, but in the manner again against Brighton, the performance wasn't very good, and Man City again, an opportunity there to make a statement, and we just basically just sort of limped through the game and just accepted a 1-0 defeat. And that was more disappointing than anything, really, because again, you get past Man City, it opens up. The draw opens up. I mean, they're in the final now, aren't they, Man City? So, that could have been us at the weekend. Looking forward to that.
Yeah, but we've got to draw blood. You've got to go in and draw blood on those guys. You've got to get in there. You've got to give them a battle. I think, again, the Tierney versus Arsenal, New Year's Day game against Man City, we absolutely went at them. There was no mercy. We didn't care. We went at them. Saka scored the goal, and we got in, and red cards and bloody penalties and God knows what else. Right? Another bent referee doing what he does. The guy's from Manchester, for God's sake. So you shouldn't. He's born in Manchester and lives in Manchester. So you got him doing a City game. But then that's another story for another day. But you're absolutely right that you cannot. It's your biggest enemy. It's your biggest foe, right? You cannot sit back and just let those guys, do what they want. They've spent £1 billion on that team. 10 years in the making. They've got the best manager in the world. And I don't care what anyone says. I mean, Arteta, how I feel about Arteta, and you and I have had many a heated word about it. But the fact is, there's £1 billion gone into it. They've got the best striker in the world. The guy is a robot, even if he hasn't got any eyebrows, Rich. He's got no eyebrows. Have a look next time, mate.
He doesn't need them. He doesn't need them. What's he need eyebrows for?
It's very off-putting, everybody. Go and have a look. Haaland has no eyebrows. So you've got the best striker in the world. You've got the best manager in the world. You've got the biggest, most expensive, one of the most expensive teams in the world. We obviously second probably only to PSG. So you've got this super rich team. And we've got these young guns going in, and they go out of a whimper. Yeah, we can go in, on our day, as a team, we can go out and absolutely destroy people with the way that we played. And Sunday just gone was a great example of that. And I know it was the end of season and all that kind of stuff, but Sunday was a great example about the way we play and the roller coaster that we've all been on. So absolutely, I'm 100% behind you, Rich. We should not have gone out with a whimper. Now, I always sort of harken back to when Barcelona came to the Emirates, and they just outplayed us. They were so good. They outplayed us. Messi and and Neymar and all that. They just played us unfair. But we played with heart, spirit, and fight in every single thing that we did, and we would not back down, and we just didn't. And they were just better than us, and that to me is perfectly fine. And as a fan, I love you even more for it if that's what you do. But to go out and like, meh, it's Man City, we're going to lose anyway. That mindset. No, I'm sorry. That's and it should hurt whoever it is that's there, and they should be ashamed. That's the situation. Now, I'm not a footballer. I've never, I've never been there, and I don't know what it's like. But to go to Man City, we should be taking it to them. We should be taking it to them, and not. I don't care who they are really, but because the odds are stacked against us. And to put one good show up like we did in our own turf, and we did it at the Emirates. Come on, it don't take much, boys.
Yeah, I mean, it was almost like I got the feeling with that FA Cup game that the whole mindset was, well, if we lose away at Man City in the FA Cup, there's no shame in losing away at Man City because most people lose away at Man City. And it was almost like, well, it was like, well, that's it. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter too much. And to me, it's the FA Cup. It's our competition. Yeah. It's our competition. And we should not go out in the manner that we did. I think we should have shown a lot more heart and fight and what have you. And it was really disappointing. Terry says, we've had a good season. Xhaka leaving. Saliba ain't signed a new contract. Saka has put it all get out clause in his new contracts, and Tierney's on his way out. It's looking exciting. Well, yeah, if you put it like that, I mean, I think Saka hasn't got his buyout clause, has he? They've given him a shorter contract instead of the buyout clause. But anyway, the fact that he even wanted one is a worry, isn't it, really, when you're looking at it. But anyway, he signed his new contract. We need to be happy about that. That's something we will talk about as well. But yeah, so the FA Cup didn't last particularly a long time. And we have now got to suffer at the weekend an FA Cup final without us in it, which is always every year we're not in it. I don't like it because it's a competition that we love the most. And it's so disappointing that we went out in the way that we did. But there you go. We wasn't going to win everything, so ultimately we were going to suffer cup defeats at some point. Probably it's just a shame it actually happened in the manner that it did. Not who we played. It's fair enough losing to Man City. Everyone loses to them pretty much. So it was just the way that we lost. But the next competition that we're going to talk about is one that there is absolutely no excuse for not going a lot further in it, because to me this was our chance. Now, the group stage in the Europa League, we can forget about that because it's pretty much we're going to get through with a youth team, let's be honest, right? So that was fine. We got through the group stage, won 5 out of 6 games. We didn't play fantastic, but it didn't matter too much. Then we got to the knockout stage. Now, the knockout stage started in February. Now, in February, at that point in the season, I don't know about you, Steve, but we looked pretty much nailed on to finish top 4. Which meant that we were going to be playing in the Champions League next season. That was, at that point, it was pretty much, for me, it was nailed on. Looking at the league table, where we were, the points that we had, it would have taken a massive collapse in forms for us not to have finished in the top 4. So to me, I'm thinking, right, we're going to be back in the Champions League for the first time in 7 years. The chance of us winning it in the first 2 or 3 years that we're back, assuming that we're back in it for 2 or 3 years, is probably quite slim, right? So an opportunity finally to win a European trophy was the Europa League this season, because we may not get another opportunity for the next few years. Because if we're in the Champions League, which we hope we're going to be on a regular basis again, it's probably going to take us 2 or 3 years to build a squad that can potentially win the Champions League. I think that's the fact. It's not being negative. It's just a fact of where we are, right? Yeah. So for me, I thought, right, the Europa League this season, we haven't won enough European trophies. We haven't won one at all since 1994. Let's go for this. And people at the time, fans at the time, were saying, no, let's bin it off because we've got the league to concentrate on. But look what happened. We would still have finished in the top 4 if we'd put a strong team out in the Europa League all the way through and got to the final, which actually is tonight. We should be watching Arsenal in the Europa League final tonight instead of doing this show. But we're not. And that is, for me, it's so frustrating because we were the best team left in that competition. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind. When you looked at who was in it, we were the best team in it. And we threw away a big opportunity to go into a European final and win another European trophy. Not that you can guarantee we would have won it, but we should have given that a better go. I was so frustrated with the lineups in those 2 games against Sporting, and the performance at the Emirates was an embarrassment. That second leg in the second half, they should have scored 5 goals against us.
That was disgraceful.
They deserved to win. And that was, I mean, Did you not feel that it was a big opportunity for us in the Europa League to really go on and, not necessarily win it? We can't guarantee we'd win it, but certainly to give it a real go. We should have given it a go because we may not be in another opportunity to win a European trophy for whoever knows how long.
I was there that night, and I shan't say the expletives because we'll get thrown off YouTube.
No,
but genuinely, and if you go back to some of the earlier conversational pieces that we had in the podcast at the very beginning of the seasons, I said go a long way, potentially win Europa League and get top 4. That's what that to me was the pinnacle of our season.
That would have been the dream season, wouldn't it? That'd have been the dream season.
It would have been everything we wanted. And again, I couldn't actually be like, I think Saliba's injury did it. Ramsdale also had a bit of a dip in form coming up into that. So I was watching him. He wasn't playing particularly well, and there was a nervousness in that back four that I hadn't seen for a very long time. And that I think was the catalyst that just how bad we played. And that chip goal over Ramsdale just summed it up. I can't even tell you how angry I was over that. We were lackluster. We showed no enthusiasm, no drive, no respect for the fans that had all. And we have to pay extra, of course, to have the pleasure of having our expensive season tickets and sitting there and paying the extra to sit there at 8, 9 o'clock at night while they all run around like idiots. And it was one of the worst performances I've seen. And there was nothing about it. And I don't think that Sporting Lisbon team were all that. When I looked at them, I just thought it made them look amazing as they were playing. And I sat back and I thought, oh my God, this is absolutely disgraceful. And I think they should hang their heads in shame, really, the team, from that perspective. And I know I'm sounding quite negative about the team, and there are a lot of positives, that's come out of this season. But for that especially, that one thing, we should have absolutely destroyed them. And there were a couple of players that you sort of pick out that you look in, and I sit back and I wonder why the likes of Smith Rowe and why the likes of how useless Vieira is. I can't even start to put into it like these. We've got players on the bench that should actually be coming on and being rotated in and out. We've got a team that's not playing particularly well. We've got a bucket load of changes that are happening and you could see it. The team did not know what to do, which way to go, one way or the other. So I'm in total agreement with you this one. We should have gone through it. It should have been us tonight, right? We should have been in that final. We should be going for cup glory, and that is there's no excuse. There's no excuse. And I hold the team as well as the manager responsible for that because it was just a lackluster performance at the end of the day. Saka looked knackered. Odegaard looks, the whole team, our normal, Martinelli didn't look that well and all the sort of stuff that went with it. The whole team just looked lackluster. It was just a tired, leggy performance. And with what was at stake, I don't get it. I just don't understand it.
No, I say that's probably the. I know we didn't lose the game technically; it was 2 draws. We lost on penalties, but that defeat was probably the one that upset me the most all season because of such a big opportunity missed in a competition that I thought we had such a great chance to win. And I say it may not come around again because hopefully we'll be in the Champions League in the future. We won't be in the Europa League again. Anyway, we have got a very special guest joining us. It is, of course, Neil. How are you doing?
Hello, gorgeous.
Hey, it's Rich. Steve, good to see you, man.
Man, there we go. Look, we've even dressed the same. Look,
we are.
Beautiful man, you.
What can I say?
Such a beautiful man.
How are you both? You all right?
All the better now you're here, mate.
I'm sorry I'm late. I'm so sorry I'm late, but yeah, I'm here. Hopefully we'll have a chat. See how it goes.
Exactly. Now we've kind of brushed through the Carabao Cup and the FA Cup because there wasn't really much to talk about. Let's be honest. 3 games in the 2 competitions. 2 of those we lost, of course. So we're not going to worry too much about that. But we are on the Europa League now, which to me and Steve as well, really, really frustrating that we didn't put up a better go in that competition, which I believe it was a really big opportunity for us to have potentially won a European trophy, and the chance of that coming around again in the next couple of years, because I say we're going to be in the Champions League. Are we ready to win that at the moment? Probably not. Let's be fair. That's not. I think that's realistic. So this was a big opportunity for me, and I really, and I know, yes, hindsight's a wonderful thing. we didn't win the league anyway, so we may as well have tried to win the Europa League and won something, and we'd still finish in the top 4. But yeah, I was so disappointed in going out that early again. That's twice in 3 seasons Mikel Arteta's been in the Europa League. We've gone out at that last 32 stage, whatever it is, really early on. I mean, how did you feel about that, Neil? Because obviously it wasn't a great performance on the night, the second leg in particular, was it? It was poor. We could have lost the game, should have lost the game actually, and ended up losing the penalty. I mean, what was you as disappointed as me that we went out so early in that competition at the time that we went out, because we were still top of the league, obviously?
I've got 2 takes on it. I was listening to you guys earlier. I agreed wholeheartedly with Steve. I hate going out of, and you, Rich, hate going out of any competition. Yeah. That's why I always say we're going to win the quad at the beginning of each season, because I think we have to go for every competition. In any sport, look, I'm not a trophy hunter. People might think, oh, he's after. I'm not. I've been following Arsenal since the 70s. I'm not. We went through bad times in the 80s, seriously bad times, and I didn't. My support for them or following didn't waver, not one iota. If they went down to the non-league, I'd still follow them. I'm not. It's not like that. But for me, even in any simplistic competition, even if you two would have a game of chess, you don't go to play to lose, do you? You go to play to win, right?
Yeah.
So every competition is important. So I think if you have an opportunity in any competition, you have to do your very, very best. If your best isn't good enough, well, then fair play. The other team done well and they deserve to win. But I like what you said on the other 2 competitions. I don't want to repeat it because you've gone over it. I just think that we just seem to... I think he just threw his eggs in the Prem basket. I think he saw something that was very extraordinary. Didn't think that he would be top week in, week out, week after week. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing, of course, because we were all loving life. All of us were. But I think he may have thought, okay, I think I'm just going to focus on this. Maybe, I don't know. Or it could be a combination of fatigue, players not being able to cope. You called it so many times, Rich. The squad is too thin. We've got literally 12, 13 players playing every single week, and then they've got to then do the cup competitions as well. And there were some cup competitions where you think we could use our expand our squad, use the reserve players, but in the end of the day, we started struggling in those games, and the seniors had to come on anyway. So I think from the point of view of going out of a competition, I was absolutely gutted. I was at the game that went to penalties. Yeah. But there is another point to it, and I know you guys both probably will hate me for this, but we lost Tomiyasu and Saliba so early on. Yeah. And throughout that game, I saw our players getting clattered. We weren't playing exceptionally well, but I saw our players getting clattered, and I thought, no, hang on a minute. We've got something really... I'm not going to try and poo-poo the Europa Cup League by saying it's a lesser thing than the Prem, but for us to do something special in the league is, for me, it's always paramount. League is always paramount, guys. And I just thought, I want us to do well in this competition, but not at the expense of half our squad being out injured, because it's a thin enough squad as it is. And I wasn't as disappointed when the final whistle went, because I thought, all right, we've only lost 2 players. It could have been a lot worse. And I think it was more of an emotional response, Rich and Steve, than thinking about it, logically and with my mind. It was more of my heart. I was thinking, thank God for that. I'll tell you one thing, losing to penalties is horrible. We've been there. We've been there many times, guys, but we've won loads as well. And, it's euphoric, isn't it, when we win? I honestly, when Martinelli missed that penalty, I just walked off and I had no emotion. It was bizarre. And I don't know why, but I just didn't. And so I'm just disappointed with all 3 cup competitions, but especially the FA Cup, because that's the one where my heart lies. Yeah. It's just this is, people dream to play in these competitions. People dream to get to Wembley. It's iconic. It's the oldest club competition in sport in the world, not just football, in sport. Yeah. You've got teams that have no money able to compete in this competition, and it's a dream, isn't it, for some teams that sometimes they get far, they progress. It's a sporting, it's just a sporting romance, I think. The whole story is romantic with the FA Cup. And for any team or any player to go out and almost like it feels, we don't know what's going through their heads. We don't know on any day what's going on behind the scenes. But as an observer, you can only comment, and you look at the team and you think, they're not really making an effort. I don't care if they're playing Real Madrid on when they were the Galacticos.
Yeah.
You still fight, don't you? And I didn't see that, unfortunately. I mean, at the time, FA Cup. I mean, I'm just, you know what? I know I don't want Man City to win the treble, but I do want them to beat the Man United in the FA Cup. I don't want them getting one closer to our record. So I'm just hoping and praying. But you know what? That will also give us, if they do that, if Man City win, we'll have another stab at them at the Community Shield.
Yeah,
that might be a useful match. So yeah, that's where I'm going with it. But yeah, I was kind of dull with my emotions on the night, Richard, as I left the ground. But that's the only way I can describe it. But it's very disappointing.
I was seething when I left the ground. I've never been so angry, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it was that was for me the worst one. Well, one of the, at the time it was the worst moment of the season at that particular time. Obviously, a few more followed later on, but at that time it was so frustrating because I don't know. I was saying it at the time. You know, a lot of people were saying, "Oh, let's bin the Europa League off." You know, we've got bigger fish to fry, or whatever it was. And yeah, we were top of the league, and that was maybe fair enough. But for me, we can't bin off any competition. We're Arsenal. We should be looking to try and win a trophy. And yes, as we mentioned before, and it's right what Rio Ferdinand said, winning a trophy and finishing in the top four is a better season than finishing in the top four and not winning a trophy. Of course, it's a better season. And we could have won, or certainly given it a much better go, having a decent run at the Europa League. Because I say, we may not have another chance in that. Hopefully, we won't ever play in a Europa League again. That's the aim, and the hope that we don't. And it would have been nice to have gone out of the Europa League by actually winning it, and finally getting a European trophy. But anyway, obviously it wasn't to be. Mark C says, I've got one eye on the Sevilla v Roma game, which should be Arsenal in there. Come on, Mark, it should be Arsenal. Don't watch it because it should be us, and I can't be doing with a competition that we should be in the final. I'm not going to watch the FA Cup final for the same reason.
I think, guys, doesn't Arteta struggle with two-legged games, two-legged affairs? He
struggles with one game a week now, let alone two.
Yeah.
I think, do you know what? In a way, I mean, obviously, don't get me wrong. When he won the FA Cup, 3 or 4 years ago, whenever it was, and we won our 14th. I mean, it's a great day. I mean, I'll take FA Cups every year. I love them. Absolutely love it.
Absolutely.
But I don't know whether that may have been almost giving him a slight cushion. Because the fact he's won it. He's won a cup already. And maybe the pressure would have been on him a little bit more, maybe to do a bit better or try and at least do something different in this year's competitions if he hadn't won that cup. And I'm not saying I would have rather him didn't win that. Of course not, never. All our cups, please. Great things. But it's possible. I mean, you don't know at the end of the day. We're not privy to all of this stuff, but
No, we're not. But no, I kind of agree. John says there, my tuppence worth when Arsenal lost in the KO FA Cup and Europa League, it was very disappointing. Well, very disappointing is a bit of an understatement, John. But yes, it was definitely very disappointing. The Europa League, in particular, Terry says you put that very politely, John. Yeah, he did put it very politely. Yeah. I think we've got slightly stronger words we would have.
I got a few that probably not for a more mature audience. To be honest with you, I'd like to put into that.
And Mark Z says, yeah, we could have been in Budapest tonight. Exactly. Yeah, that is the frustration thing, isn't it?
We could have been live in Budapest tonight.
Yeah, we could have gone. Yeah, we could have gone live from the stage. That'd be good, wouldn't it? John says, yeah, fans want to be going to cup finals. It's about the excitement of travelling to Wembley and taking part in the Europa League final. We've got exactly that is what it's about. And yeah, and I think cup competitions now have become a bit underrated, in my opinion. Everything seems to be focused on the league, the top four, and all this kind of stuff now. Whereas to me, we all grew up. I mean, us three in particular, Melvin would say the same if he was here. Tom, everybody else that comes on the channel really is that the FA Cup final in particular, but cup finals in general, European finals, the games that were shown on telly when we were growing up, right? So that was how we watched our football, watching cup finals. And for me, watching Arsenal play in the FA Cup final in the 1970s is what, really got me into it in the first place. And I don't know. That to me, cup finals are so important because of that reason, and it's so frustrating when every single season we just seem to throw them away as though it's not important. Well, no, I'm sorry, it is important. John's absolutely right. Going to a cup final, having that excitement at the end of the season of a cup final to look forward to, makes up for any other shit that goes on throughout the season. I wouldn't have cared about our collapse in the league if we had the Europa League final to come, I wouldn't have cared. I wouldn't have been bothered because we've got a cup final to come. And how exciting would that have been? Do you know what I mean? And that's what we grew up on. We grew up on the cup finals, and how great they were, and watching them on the telly if we wasn't going, all that kind of stuff. And I don't know, I just feel that the cup competitions now have been devalued completely. And that's wrong because they're so important as fans. And they might not be important to the club. They might not be important financially anymore as they used to be. But for fans, there's nothing better, is there, than a cup final? Nothing better than a cup final. It's just brilliant.
Can I say something that might make you two laugh? When I was growing up, so this is sort of mid to late 70s, I thought the FA Cup was the biggest thing, bigger than the league. Because there was so much glamour around it. There wasn't.
Yes.
And then, I don't know if you remember the old days where Match of the Day, they'd start the coverage really early. They'd have walking about the teams. You'd watch the coaches on the roads. I actually thought that this was more important, that this was the pinnacle of the season. I thought this was the one. If you won this, you won the team of the year.
It was. Yeah. If you all the players in those days, and even later on years, would always say that when they were kids, they dreamed of playing in the FA Cup final at Wembley. Everybody dreamed of it. You didn't dream of playing a league game at Man City or playing a league game at Old Trafford. You dreamt of playing in the FA Cup final, and now it's like nobody cares. And to me, that's such a shame because it's been such a rich history in football. Any cup competition to me is important for that same reason. Because that's what you live for. I mean, I've played football, not at a very good level, but I've played football. And, you play your league games every week and every so often you get a cup competition. To me, I'd rather be playing in a cup final and win a cup final than get promoted in the league. I'd much rather be in a cup final because it's a day, innit? It's a special day for everybody. Sure. It doesn't make sense how our clubs these days, not just Arsenal, but Arsenal in particular, because it's our club, but our clubs just seem to throw away cup competitions as though they don't matter because they'd rather finish one place higher in the league and get an extra 50 grand or whatever the Premier League pays them. It's ridiculous. You ask the fans what they would rather. The fans would rather have a day out in a cup final than finish one place higher or two places higher in the league. 100% all day long. But
I remember a good friend of mine. So, I'm from West London originally, and I think it's 92 with the FA Cup final, and it's QPR Southampton. And from Loftus Road. So I remember we were going up there with him. He had tickets. I didn't have any tickets to go. But he left at about 8 o'clock in the morning. And they walked. All the QPR fans, thousands of them, walked from Loftus Road all the way to Wembley. Now, mate, trust me, that's a walk and a half. That's like big time. That's what it means to fans. Like, that is what it's. I remember seeing Arsenal play Man City again. Man City and Aubameyang having a stinker. In the final up at Wembley as well. It just means so much to us. It genuinely means so much to us. But how much money is in it for them? And that's the whole thing. It's part of it. But going back to what you say, I totally get it. I love. I was actually almost so, as I said earlier, Neil, you missed it, or you might have missed it or not. I did Emirates Cup, an Emirates tour, the Emirates Stadium. They got the FA Cup. You actually couldn't have a picture by the FA Cup. We were trying to say, so Luke and I were hanging on to it and almost got thrown out of the stadium because I was trying to take the lid off and put it on my head and all that stuff. And they went absolutely mental.
Yeah,
but
you can't touch it even, can you?
You can't touch it, but it's what it means to us. What it means to us is fans. I just want to put it on my head and I want to run around and do all the players do. You just want to, I want to walk to Wembley. I don't want to walk from the Emirates to Wembley. Forget that. That's bloody, that's
it's
crazy.
Oozes history. That cup oozes history. Loads of it. Unbelievably so. But it's money game now. It's all about money.
It is, unfortunately. And it's all about, clubs, I said, would rather finish one or two places higher in the league to get a few extra quid than play a decent, strong team in the cups to try and win a cup. And I just think that the fans, us as fans in general, need to express the fact that we're not happy about that we want our club to be trying to get to cup finals every single season. You're not going to do it every season. Of course you're not, because cup games are like that. You can lose and you're out and that's it. But at least give it a go. At least try to get to the finals in these competitions because that's what it's all about. And in the last few years, it seems as though for Arsenal, none of the cup competitions seem to matter enough anymore. And that is the worst thing about it. It's like you look forward to the FA Cup draw or the League Cup draw or the European draw. What's the point when Arsenal don't want to win them anyway? It doesn't matter who we get drawn against. Whether we get drawn against a team from the 4th division or we get drawn against Man City away, ultimately the results are going to be the same. We're not going to win it because the club don't want to win it. They're not interested in winning it. And to me, that's the worst thing ever. And as much as people wanted Wenger out at the end and all this kind of stuff, at least he managed to win a few FA Cups at the end. Do you know what I mean? Even when things were bad, he still managed to win some FA Cups. And that, for me, I almost forgive him anything for the fact that he kept on bringing us some trophies, even when things weren't too great. And, you know, I'd rather have that now, if I'm honest. But like you said, the priorities have changed. Such a shame.
What do you think about the Champions League then? Well, how do you think they'll be now with the Champions League when that comes? Do you think that will change? That mindset will change?
Well, I mean, I don't know. My personal feeling is the whole mindset of the club isn't necessarily geared to winning anything. We don't seem as though we've got that winning at all cost mentality in the team, in the club. And I think that in the Champions League, I think most people seem to be, oh, well, we're in the Champions League. Isn't that great? We finally got there. And are we ready to really compete and go for it next season? No. I'll be surprised if we should get through the group stage, especially now we're going to be in pot 2. So we should maybe progress through the group stage, which is great. As soon as we get to the knockout stage and you're starting to play against the real elite, start to get to meet the real elite teams in Europe. As you said about 2 legs, Neil, you're probably right. We're going to see, aren't we? I wouldn't be surprised if we don't progress past 1 knockout round in the Champions League next season, depending on how the draw works out. But I wouldn't be surprised at all if we go out quite early, because I don't think we're ready yet for that competition anyway. I don't think the squad's big enough, good enough, got enough depth, enough experience. I don't think the manager's got enough experience in that competition yet. And I think it's going to take, you know, no matter how good you are. Look at when we first qualified for the Champions League under Arsene Wenger in 98, when we won the double. The first couple of years we got knocked out in the group stage because we wasn't ready for that level of competition at that point. We were a brilliant team. We'd won domestic trophies, but we wasn't ready for that. And now it's going to be even worse because that level in the Champions League gone up massively since then. To win it now takes a lot more than it did to win it back then. There's no doubt about that. So, yeah, I think that the club are just going to be happy to be in it, take the money that we're going to get through the group stage, get at least 1 decent knockout round, and I think the club will be happy with that. I don't think they'll be thinking any further on than that. So to me, next season, we're not going to win the Champions League, so let's go for the other 2 cups. Let's at least try and win one of them. Do you know what I mean? Because we're not going to win the Champions League, are we?
Go for them all. Just go for them all, playing properly.
Go for them all, yeah, but I don't think I don't think we're geared. The club isn't geared for that. We're not. Man City are geared to go for every trophy. Man United want to win every trophy, right? These are clubs that are geared to win trophies. Chelsea used to be this season, and whatever it's gone completely wrong for them, and we'll see what happens with them in the future. But you know, you can see the different mindset in the different clubs, how seriously they take winning a trophy. And we need to start doing that, and we need to start taking every single competition seriously and trying to win at least one of them every single season. Not that we're going to, because that's impossible. Nobody does. But that should be the aim at the start of the season. But with the Champions League, I don't think we're ready to even consider being in. You know, if we got to the quarterfinals or the semi-finals of the Champions League next season, that would be incredible. That would be such a big effort from it, and I would be really, really happy with that. I'd be over the moon with that, actually. I really would, because I just don't think the squad is good enough in depth and quality to do that in that competition. And also, bearing in mind, we have to finish in the top 4 as well in the Premier League. You know what I mean? So you've got to look at that extra pressure. So I think the club are happy to be in it, and I'm not sure if we're geared up yet to really put a challenge in for it. And I don't think we are. And I think it's going to take 2 or 3 years at least until we can start to think, assuming we're in it for the next 2 or 3 years, until we can start to build. You need to build a squad that can compete. Yeah. Look at Man City, for how great they are. They've never won it. Yeah. And you've seen how far ahead of us they are in terms of squad and what have you, and they've never won it. Do you know what I mean? So what chance do we think we've got of going in it for the first time in 7 years with quite a young, inexperienced squad and expect to compete in that competition? No.
Just a quick one. I know a complete digress. You know when Leeds were in it, didn't they get to the semi? Would they get the semi-finals? Or am I dreaming that? They did quite well.
Yeah, I think they got the semi-finals of the Champions League one year. Yeah.
Yeah, was that not their first go at it as well, or something?
I don't know if it was their first go. I'm sure they got
as in the Champions League, not European. I don't know if they've ever been.
Yeah, no, I think they did. Yeah, I think they potentially did. But as I say, back then it wasn't quite. I'm not saying it wasn't a great achievement, because it was. It's a great achievement for anyone to get to the semi-final. Yeah, maybe that was their first. Maybe that was their first go. I can't remember.
Yeah,
but they did have a really good run, didn't they? Because I remember that. Was that David O'Leary? Was it? No, I don't think it was.
I think it was O'Leary.
Was it
Was
O'Leary?
it O'Leary or was it after him? Was it what was his name? He took over after. They did really well. Was it Martin O'Neill? No, he wasn't manager at Leeds, was he?
No,
Was it?
I don't know.
He's good, wasn't he?
I can't remember.
I'll check.
I can't remember.
I'll check. So it's an interesting. We talk about fans, right? One thing I want to share with you. Do you think I could get tickets for Bodo Glimt when I wanted to go to? I would have flown to bloody Norway or wherever that was, wherever it was in Sweden.
It was in Norway, yeah.
I was ready to fly to the middle of nowhere like a Spaniard in minus whatever it was at that time to go and watch our team. So what it means to us and what it means to them are two totally different things, isn't it? Yeah, it is two totally different. I would have gone to bloody Norway to do it. And I couldn't get a ticket. They'd sold out. They'd actually sold out. It's one of the biggest stadiums in Norway.
There wasn't many tickets, though, was there? You saw the state of their ground. It only held about 4,000 fans, didn't it? So I think there's only about 50 Arsenal fans that we had.
I wanted to be one of them. Rich, I wanted to be one of
them. I remember you saying, Steve, you really wanted to go. I remember that.
I remember that.
They wouldn't let me go. I feel really upset now.
I mean, they're the sort of games, aren't they? It's like when you play away in the FA Cup at some little ground like Luton, right? And you play them away in the FA Cup, you want to go because it's an experience, isn't it? To go and experience a little crappy ground. We're going to get one next season in the Premier League, but to get to experience that is a great opportunity, isn't it? And when you get those little teams like that in Europe, and that, it's brilliant, isn't it? To get the opportunity to go and see a ground that you're never going to see again.
Train that goes round and they stop the game. It's I can't remember who it was.
I know because it's like because you can't see the game, can't you? Yeah. No, I know what you mean. There's a train that goes right next to the ground, isn't there?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you get little stuff like that is just brilliant, isn't it? Because it's part of what football's about, isn't it? It's not all about Old Trafford and the Emirates and all these glamorous stadiums. It's actually all about the little crappy stadiums where, you know, they've got no facilities or anything, and you're stuck out in a car park for hours after the game because you can't get anywhere and all that. That's what football's about, isn't it? And those experiences are what make it what it is. And we're not going to experience Bodo Glimt again, probably. And it's a shame, isn't it, that you couldn't go and experience the Bodo Glimt full ground experience. It looked like it would have been a lot of fun, actually. But you know,
I was really looking forward to it. Yeah, I really was. Yeah,
exactly.
I couldn't get there. So actually, Rio Ferdinand was. So when they were playing in the Champions League, Rio Ferdinand was actually playing for Leeds at the time.
I think he probably would have been. Yeah, that would have probably been then. Yeah, because they had a really good side then, didn't they? They had a really good team then, didn't they, Leeds? Really good team.
Yeah, Viduka, Alan Smith.
Viduka, yeah. See, what a team! What a team they had. See, that's what you need to.
It was David O'Leary. It was actually David O'Leary.
It was. Well, there you go. Good old David O'Leary, eh? Legend. But yeah, I mean, that was a great Leeds team. I think we all remember it, don't we? They were top of the Premier League at one point, I think, that same season, and then they went on to the semi-final, and you know, I think they finished in the top 4 in the league maybe, and then of course 2 years later they got relegated, and it was they had no money left. They gambled on winning the Champions League, and it didn't quite work for them, did it? Loki says he remembers the as an 8-year-old v Sheffield Wednesday, the 4 replays 1979. Yeah, I remember them. I was maybe about 8 or 9. Yeah, about that time, all them Sheffield Wednesday games. I remember listening to them on the radio. In my bedroom when all those replays were on back in '79.
Yeah, Danny Mills was there as well. Nigel Martin in goal.
Yeah, it was a good side. They had a great side, Leeds back then, didn't they? I bet they wish they had a team half as good as that now. John says, I'm being very polite as I don't want to breach YouTube rules. Exactly, yeah, we need to be polite about it, don't we? John says, Arsenal might be playing in Europa League next season if they don't qualify for knockout round. Well, no, that's the point. Yeah, okay, fair enough.
I didn't want to say that, yeah.
I'm expecting us to qualify through the group stage, but yeah, you maybe you're right. Maybe we might end up in the Europa League next season, and we might have another go at it to get knocked out again, probably. John says, we've said it time and time again, getting and winning the FA Cup was so big, nearly equivalent to winning Division 1, the whole build-up, the pride of senior team. Yeah, it was, yeah. I mean, obviously, Wembley now has been diluted because the semi-finals are there. They play all kinds of different games there, and it's kind of lost its magic a little bit, which is a shame. But the FA Cup final still is. I mean, as much as I'm saying I'm not going to watch it, I probably will watch it because it's the FA Cup final, and you watch it, don't you? Even though you don't care who wins, and you don't want to see.
You don't want any of them to win, do you? I generally don't want both those teams to win.
You want them both to lose, but I'll end up watching it anyway. James says, I was born in 1991, but when we was kids doing football in the park, we played Wembley knockout. We didn't play Premier League knockout. Exactly, yeah, we all did. Yeah, when we were kids, even like long before the 90s, James, we did that in the 70s as well. You know, it was always knockout Wembley, wasn't it? That's what we used to play. Yeah, brilliant. Loki says, a 79 v Sheffield Wednesday. Arsenal fans who lived in London would have travelled more than 900 miles to make it a game. Yeah, I think all them replays were in Leicester, weren't they, or something? A few of them were. I think Villa Park, maybe. John says, Terry and Mark C, we don't see Man City not wanting the FA Cup. Exactly, we don't. Because they've got a winning... Their whole club's about winning trophies, and Pep's all about winning trophies, isn't he? Mark says exactly, Pep wants to win every cup available. Of course he does, yeah, because that's what winners do.
Every manager should be about trophies, unless you're Sam fucking Allardyce, who wants, my apologies, who wants to do nothing but, try and keep everybody afloat, don't they?
Yeah. Terry says, I bet Pep gets the ump if he loses the toss. He probably does. He probably does, actually. Yeah, you can see that, can't you? But anyway, we'll see what happens. Mark C says, we got 160 million in Premier League prize money, and we got a guaranteed 40 million for Champions League group. We need to spend that more than this summer. Yeah, no, that's true. But equally, though, Mark, and don't you feel that getting £60 million prize money when we didn't win anything? How is that prize money just for finishing in a position in the league table other than first? It's rewarding failure, isn't it? And that's what it's been about for a long time, isn't it? The money there. I mean, 160 million. That's a lot of money. That's what two decent players, isn't it? 160 million in transfer fees. Yes, not wages, but in transfer fees. That's two decent players to come second in the Premier League. Even if you come third or fourth, you still get a lot of money, don't you? And it should be more the other way around, shouldn't it? Because the teams at the top have got enough money anyway. Give 160 million to poor Southampton so they don't go bust for getting relegated. Do you know what I mean?
I think they've gone down by 80 odd million. It's not. They haven't gone. It's a lot of money they've gone down with.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they're going to have a lot of money, but they're going to lose a lot of money as well, aren't they? If they don't come straight back up.
That's true.
And they've stopped the parachute payments as well, haven't they, for the Premier League teams that get relegated? So James says they got to the semi-final under O'Leary first time in a while in 2000. Yeah, lost the semi-final to Valencia. That's right. Yeah, because Valencia beat us in the quarterfinals that year, didn't they? And then they then beat Leeds in the semi-final as well. Drew the first leg at Ellen Road, but got bashed 3-0 in Spain. Yeah, we lost in Spain that year. We beat them at home, didn't we? Valencia, and then I think Ray Parler scored, and then we lost away. John says unless Arteta and Arsenal invest in a squad equivalent to competing in all cups, then they won't win anything. Exactly, yeah, of course, 100%. Russ is in the chat here, my friend. He says, evening, lads. Yeah, evening, my friend. Hope you're well. John says, going to Luton will be like going back in time. How enjoyable would that be? Best wishes to Luton Town. Well, exactly. I mean, just going to Luton itself, regardless of going to the football ground, going to Luton is like going back in time.
Yeah,
just
exactly.
Actually going to the place. So, the football ground will be the same. It will be going back to the 1980s, won't it? Anyway, good luck to them. But yeah, they're not going to be around long, are they, in the Premier League, probably? James says Ian Hart, Radibi, Olivier, Decor as well. But yeah, they had a great team that league. I can remember them clearly. They were a very, very good side. Mark C says we do need to spend that money. If we don't, you know what will happen. I don't want to see us get pumped 5-0 by Bayern on a Tuesday night. No, or a Wednesday night. But you're right. But that's more likely to be the case, unfortunately. Boise88 says if United win, do they not equal 14? No, they'll be 13, won't they? If they win, they'll be on 13. They need one more to equal us because we're just too good. We're just too good in the FA Cup. Loki says, a question, FA Cup wins be Hull, Villa, Chelsea, or top four memories. Yeah, exactly. I agree with that 100%. I would rather have won the FA Cup. I mean, I think we finished top four in all those seasons apart from the Chelsea 17, we finished fifth, didn't we, and won the FA Cup. But that was all right, you see. I didn't mind that because we won the FA Cup. So, yeah, I agree. John says all schoolboy games in Ireland used to be called off so we could watch the FA Cup no matter who was playing. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they used to get all stuff like that. Yeah, it used to be the biggest event of the year, 100%. Loki says, you chaps been to Luton. I went a 2-2 draw in 85. Yeah, I went to Luton quite a lot in the 80s. And the ground was horrible then. And I remember when they banned away fans, and we still managed to get into cup. I went a couple of times when technically away fans were banned. That was quite fun. And that's another reason why I don't like Luton either. You're banning all away fans because they couldn't control their crowd when Millwall played them in the FA Cup. So they banned everybody. You know, they didn't actually think that we can actually. Every other club has away fans, and yes, there was bother in the 80s. Of course, there was. We know that, but every other club could cope okay. And Luton decided to ban everybody for the sake of a few Millwall fans that wasn't very happy. Just ridiculous decision. So, and then they beat us in the '88 Cup final. So no, I don't like Luton particularly. I can't stand that town. It's an absolute dump. The ground is horrible. They shouldn't be allowed in the Premier League, quite honestly. I thought the Premier League was invented to stop little crappy teams like that being in it and crappy little grounds. But obviously, they've relaxed the rules too much now and they let anybody in. You know, we had Bournemouth. Bournemouth have come in, 10,000 fans, whatever it is they can hold. Now they wouldn't even let Luton in. Who's next? Who they're going to allow in next? Ridiculous. Come on, Premier League. Come on, Premier League. What are you doing? What you doing? Seriously, what are you doing? You need to put a stop to all this. Mark C says, I've not been to Luton. I'm not updated on all my jabs. No, well, you need a few jabs if you're going to Luton. Definitely you will.
Mate, you'll be getting a few jabs, like a few right-handers, mate.
You probably will do, yeah. Boy says, who is the lesser of the two evils in City or United? Well, there isn't one, quite honestly. Yeah, there isn't one, is there? To be honest with you, I would rather City win, if I'm honest. I would probably rather City win. I don't want either of them to win, but if I had to choose, I would rather City win. And actually, I'd rather City win the Champions League as well. Do the treble, because it will shut Man United up, because that's pretty much all they've ever gone on about.
Exactly.
So let Man City do the treble, because we've got invincible. No one can ever match that or beat that, so it doesn't matter. Let Man City do the treble, I say. And that,
and Ferguson went on record to say that's more important than Champions League. Do you remember that interview? Did anyone see that? Yeah. He says, for me, that's more. He asked him, what do you reckon, Champions League or Invincibles? He goes, Invincibles.
Wow.
That's coming from Ferguson. So
of course it is. Because Ferguson would have loved to have done that. He would have absolutely loved to have done that, wouldn't he? He would have loved it, but he didn't. Loki says Luton started fences and ID. Well, they started. I don't know if they started fences. They definitely had ID cards. Luton did that. They brought that in. You see, this is what I mean. There's nothing to like about Luton, is there? Nothing at all to like about it. And I've seen all these people on Twitter saying, "Oh, well done, Luton. Great to have Luton." No, it's great to have Luton in the Premier League. It's the worst thing ever to happen for football ever. It's the worst thing that could happen. Having that crappy little club with that crappy little ground. It's horrible. It's horrible. I hope they lose every single game.
Rich, please come down off the fence. Yeah, come down. I'm not, getting mixed messages here, right?
Which ground had the plastic pitch? Who did that?
Luton did as well. Another thing, Luton,
wasn't it? I thought
it was Luton. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Everything wrong with football, it goes back to Luton. Pretty much everything you can trace it back to.
I think, in fairness, everything wrong in life goes back to Luton. If I'm honest with you,
I think it probably does. You're absolutely right. It does. There's no doubt. Boyd says they're favourites for treble anyhow. Yeah, they will be now, and if they win on Saturday, they definitely will be, won't they? So we'll see. Terry says they've let Bournemouth and Luton in, so Spurs don't look so crap. Yeah, maybe that's probably what they've done. Yeah.
No, not having that. Spurs just look really crap no matter what they do.
They do.
Mate, listen, our defenders have scored more goals than their bloody big signing of the season. Let's face it. Chelsea was 3 managers 1 point, which I thought was very good. But no. I had a Tottenham fan of mine message me and said he said that he messaged me the other day. It's really interesting. He turned around and said bottle jobs. Picture of a bottle. Said bottle jobs. And I turned around and said, "Listen, mate. The only time you're going to win a trophy is on that go-kart track that's going around your football stadium. It looks like a toilet." Funny enough, never got a response back. Don't understand. Don't get it, mate. Don't get it.
No, exactly. And Loki summed up Luton pretty well. He says, "No lie, I saw a chap eating an onion like it was an apple on the streets in Luton." There you go. That pretty much sums up Luton for you. There you go. And this is what we got to put up with next season. And Mark C says, "Was it David Pleat?" It might well have been David Pleat. He was one of Luton's most famous people. John says Luton had a plastic pitch. Do they still have hat factories? I'm not sure if they do anymore. I think their hat factories were long gone, like most factories in England. But they're obviously famous for their hat making, aren't they, Luton? No, it's great. It's great they're in the Premier League. We look forward to playing them next season, I'm sure.
Always.
So anyway,
a load of away tickets for Luton. Lots of away tickets for Luton.
Yeah, Luton. If anyone wants to go to Luton, then you can. So anyway, we've got through the Carabao Cup, we've got through the FA Cup, and we've got through the Europa League, all of which never particularly went too well. So now we need to look at the main competition that everybody's focused on, So we'll have a little look at this. So the Premier League, I mean, wow. For me, it was a season of two halves in the Premier League, wasn't it? The first half of the season was just quite unbelievable. 50 points from 19 games, 1 defeat and 2 draws. We won all the others, 16 wins out of 19 games. I mean, incredible. Not quite sure where that came from. I think it was a mixture of momentum. I think it was a mixture of having a really, really settled team. Arteta wasn't making changes. There wasn't really injuries to anybody in that first half of the season. Jesus obviously at the World Cup, but we didn't have many games after the World Cup before we reached the halfway point in the league. So I think all of those things put together meant we were able to put together that run of results, which, we talked about the Invincibles. That, I know there was a defeat in there, but that run of results was as good as run of results that we'd had in the Premier League probably since the Invincible season, wasn't it? Some of the football that we were playing. And I know that, quite a lot of people, including a few on this channel, were kind of thinking was going to win the league because of that 19 games. And I was starting to think that, a team that's got 50 points after 19 games has to win the league from that position. I mean, what an incredible 19 games it was. But as we know, the second 19 games proved to be much more what we've been used to over the last 3 or 4 years. And in fact, I actually worked out the 19-game half-season breakdown since Arteta's been in charge. And most of those 19 games, we've got 31, 32, 33, 34, 35 points, around about that sort of number every 19 games, apart from the first 19 this season. The second half of this season, 34 points. The 2 last season was 35 and 34. The season before that, the second half was 34. So this is where we are after 19 games. And people saying what a great improvement we've made. We made a big improvement for 19 games, and that improvement was incredible. But we couldn't maintain it, and we've gone back. The last 19 games have been what we've been used to. What we've been used to over the last 4 or 5 years, nothing different. When the pressure was on, we melted. We couldn't defend particularly well. Yes, we had some more players missing in the second half of the season. There was more tiredness. There was more pressure. But all of these things have been what we've seen too many times over the last 3 or 4 years for me. It was exactly the same all over again. It was just a repeat. And yes, we finished second, 84 points, most points that we've had since the Invincible season. I think it was the most number of points, the most goals we've ever scored in the Premier League season as well. So all these things are positives, right? And I don't want to distract away from them because they're positives and they're important positives as well. But over the course of the season, and particularly in the second half, when the pressure really got on, we dropped back to our usual kind of performances that we've done in the last few years. And to me, there wasn't an improvement over the season. There was an improvement for half a season, and a massive improvement it was. But other than that, the second half of the season was again not good enough. I didn't think it was good enough for Arsenal, regardless of the first half. 34 points in 19 games. You're looking at a top 6 if you're lucky, if that's over a season. That's where we were in the second half of the season. That's not good enough for Arsenal. It should never be good enough for Arsenal. And we got that first half of the season's covered up a lot of the cracks, I think, because of those 50 points that we got, which was incredible. I mean, Steve, overall, there's improvements. Of course there is. We can see the improvements, the points total, the goals, the way that we've moved up from 8th to 5th to 2nd. We can't improve another 3 places next season, but we could improve 1 potentially. But what did you make of the Premier League season as a whole? Because it had its highs and it had its lows, and ultimately disappointing that we couldn't show enough to get it over the line at the end when it really counted.
Rich, it's interesting. I take 2 or 3 things when I look at it. As you know, like yourself, I go every single possible game I possibly can, and I'll fly to Norway to do it as well if I had the opportunity. So I see 2 or 3 things, right? What I actually see is I don't see quality in the bench that we have. I don't see the team. When you look at, if you look at Jack Grealish sitting for most of the season, £100 million player. Just think about that, guys. That's our transfer budget. Yeah, apparently our transfer budget is 200 million, and that's just come from where we are in the Premier League and what we're getting out of Champions League. So a player that is effectively 100 million can sit on the bench and not get any game time, when you've got Foden sitting on the bench and stuff like that, you look at Man City bench, you look at that whole machine, totally different. When I look at Vieira, who I think is absolutely useless, I mean, on a level when I cannot, I've got a picture I'm going to send to you of a gesture that I made on his by his top that again almost got thrown out the tour with. I'll send it to you, Rich, so you can have a look, and I'll tell you exactly what I think of Vieira. And to think that they could even utter the utterance of "I'm going to get rid of Smith Rowe and keep Vieira" in the same sentence, I find incredible. What we have is a very stubborn manager who's done particularly well. And I think as a team, we can't hit them too hard, because it was a weird season with the World Cup midway through. It's like we've never had that. We've never actually gone through that. We've never actually seen it. So that break in the season that went through, that probably went in our favour, if I'm honest with you. We have a lack of rotation that sits within that squad. And I think that is what's actually killed our season, because, well, we're 3 games. We'd have won 3. If we at the losses, 3 games is what we needed. We would be sitting here, you know, crowing and high-fiving, and everybody would be absolutely, you know, Neil would have been, "I told you so," and like, you know, all that type of stuff. And, you know, you do mongers, all that nonsense. 3 games, what it took. Couldn't beat Southampton. Yeah, it couldn't beat. And it started at Liverpool. It started at Liverpool, right? Because we destroyed them.
It sort of started at Everton, actually, Steve, when we lost that game at Everton.
Yeah, sorry.
That was when the signs. That's when I started to think, oh, hang on a minute, that's a very last season performance. That.
And funny how I messaged you with the Newcastle game. Like, you know, we watched it all fall apart there together, you and I. Still can't believe that was over a year ago. No. But you know, so for me, it's a very tired squad. It was the same old thing. It was fatigue that had gone in, not working right. Our goalkeeper wasn't working right. Our back four wasn't working right. You know, and Saliba, and for whatever we think of Saliba, and I hope we get 5 minutes to just talk about that towards the end. But, you know, losing Saliba, losing Tomiyasu, genuinely has taken the wind out of the sails. That's not an excuse for everybody else. But lack of rotation, lack of the correct people, we're not. And I think you're absolutely right. If everybody thinks that we're going to get to the Champions League final, behave yourself. Now, the flip to that is I've got on TikTok, it's really funny. So I've been watching a lot of Arsenal stuff on TikTok, and there was an absolute, you know, brain donor of an Arsenal fan that was on there. The usual rant, actually, and the stupid idiot put his face up. Get rid of Arteta, get rid of Odegaard, get rid of Saka, get rid of everybody, get rid of the Cron, get rid of everybody, and start again. That was his view. You know, the whole lot's falling apart. We've got the youngest team in the whole of the Premiership, and anybody that's and it's very easy for the so-called pundits and everybody else to kind of come out. Tony Adams has come out with something that's really wound me up as well. But if you've ever managed a team, you've managed young people within that team, and I've fortunately been able to do that. Right, they're very, very difficult to keep on track. They're very difficult to keep going, to keep that level of intensity where it is right now. And I think Granit Xhaka has been the standout for me, because he's actually kept that. And Jorginho, believe it or not, when I watch them at warm up and I watch what they do, those 2 guys, and they weren't brought in for Jorginho wasn't brought in for no reason at all. So you've got a young team in a huge amount of pressure, absolutely brain, and I don't think it's physically, I think it's mentally lost it, and a manager that's refusing to rotate. And I think he's not rotating because what he has on the bench is total garbage, most of it, that sits in there. You've got these young guys that are kind of coming through.
Steve, ESR was on the bench, never got used. Quality there. Trossard was on the bench a lot of the games. Yeah, quality on the bench. He never used them. He never used ESR.
No, I've got to go and say hold ESR for one side, right, to one side. So and I kind of feel it right now. Same with Tierney as well, because again, Zinchenko to me towards the end of the season burnt out. A lot of injuries, burnt out, overplayed, wasn't quite in it. And it was only when Zinchenko actually had injuries that they took him off that you then see Tierney come on and actually become a lot more stable. I think we're going to miss Tierney when we sell him, but I understand why, because they need the money. But look, you know, you've got this rotation that needs to happen within the team. So Trossard, actually, if you look at his statistics, he's next level. He's from when he came in January, right? I think he's got some of the highest level of assists, or one of the highest levels of assists in the whole of the Premiership. So I think he's had an impact on there. Martinelli, you've got to admit, Martinelli looked absolutely shattered and destroyed. In a couple of games that that we saw him sit on the bench, where Arteta was forced to sit him down and leave him and let him recoup and recharge his batteries. We've got a new player come back until Caicedo sort of put an ending to that. But that's a different conversation. So I hear what you're saying, but for me, I think it was not arrogance is the wrong word. It is a stubbornness within the manager not to rotate. So rotating that team actually is vitally important, right? And if we are going to actually battle on all of the fronts, from the Carabao through to the FA through to the Champions League, the whole piece, he has to rotate. It's a young team. They will burn out, and they're doing this. And we saw it in Newcastle. We saw it at Tottenham last season. We saw all of that where they burn out, and it's morally saps them. You saw it with Ramsdale. So I saw Ramsdale take a dip in his form. He was not as good as he's been, and towards the end of the season, he's still not as good as he was at the beginning of the season. And I was sort of say we have to get rid of Ramsdale, rotate him in and out, not seeing. So for me, I've loved the highs. I've loved the wins. For me, the Reece Nelson goal. Like, I've never hugged so many grown men in all my life. Like, honestly, that Reece Nelson goal, amazing. All of the wins that we've had, the beating of Liverpool at our stadium. They come to our stadium, we battered them. We absolutely battered them and showed us. Beating Man United, losing to Man United because our manager rotated, put too many people in. So then went the other way and said, I won't rotate. So for me, there's been lots of highs and lows, but I actually see us move forward. I see us move forward as a team. I think the core of that team, the worry for me is the Saliba piece at this moment in time. And if you read anything in the press that he's not going to, he's demanding all this money and PSG coming in for him and Odegaard. Not that we'd ever sell Odegaard, we got him on a long contract. But that to me is an issue. But the flip to that is, full well, listen, mate, if you want to go millions, go play for PSG. I don't really care. Right, because we've got, we'll find another Saliba. We've got that. There's the young kids, Nweri, the 16-year-old kid. That we played for 5 minutes. Now all of a sudden wants to go to Manchester City because they're going to pay him the money. Like, does that kid honestly believe? Like, he's just going to be another Amari Hutchinson that went to Chelsea for the money. Where is he now? So. The thing for me is, I think that we have to be ruthless, get rid of these people. And if Saliba doesn't want to stay, I know this is going to sound crazy. If he doesn't want to stay, then go sell him, make the money, because there are more than one central defender in this world. And yes, he's a talent. I want him to stay, but so I think there's 2 or 3 things for next season. We need to get rid of the dross. I know you're going to see that Tavares is going to go. Pepe is going to go. And Balogun's going to go. And that's the other one. Everyone goes, Balogun's really, really good. But if you look at the stats from Pepe when he was playing out in France, in Lille, he was amazing. We thought, brilliant, we've got this player coming in. So whether he's good enough for the Premiership, is he better than Nketiah? That's a different conversation for another podcast. But and I have my views on that. So for me, the highs and the lows, you take them all together. Towards the end of the season, we petered out because our batteries were flat and our manager didn't rotate. The other part is, and the fact that we've gone out the FA Cup, the Carabao Cup, and the Europa League, we haven't been able to rotate our squad. Our squad wasn't good enough. So what I'm seeing now is the next step. I think Rice would be amazing. Caicedo would be a great piece. The likes of Partey. So Partey had a lot of stick. And going back to the Man City game, actually, he had a lot of stick with that. But he seemed to be the only one that was putting the boot in and actually was actually going for it and actually showing a bit of fight and driving it. The talks of him going to Italy as well. So I think there'll be a revamp. But Rich, I'm with you. I'm worried that we're not going to get enough players to be able to fight on all those fronts. And so if I was in that position, Champions League, obviously, the league and the FA Cup. That's what we've got to do. And we've got to keep in that top 4 because Man United are going to spend money. Newcastle, to me, are going to be the threat next season. It's not Man City. It's not everywhere else. It's Newcastle. Those guys can buy and sell us. Buy and sell. You take that top 6. I saw a stat the other day. You can take the turnover and earnings and the wealth of owners in the top 6 and Newcastle combined. Newcastle would still be double that amount. So that's what you're up against. So Man City. All the fans out there, enjoy your 100 PFA. The financial fair play infringements, and when that happens, but trust me, Newcastle are going to buy and sell your ass.
Yeah, potentially. We'll see what happens, and we need to try to keep ourselves competitive in that top 4, don't we?
Yeah,
and it's going to be. Yeah, we're going to need to buy new players, no doubt about that.
No more bargain basement, Rich. No more bargain basement anymore. We've got to buy decent players.
Yeah, no, we absolutely we have to, yeah, and we've got potentially the money to do it. John said will come back to haunt Arsenal if he goes to Newcastle. Yeah, I agree. Zinchenko is not a left back. Lack of rotation and indecision, and no plan B. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that pretty much what John said there pretty much sums up why we failed to win any trophy, but particularly the Premier League in the position that we're in. Totally agree. Lack of rotation, indecision, and lack of a plan B. That's exactly the three things for me that were so important in the end, and the things that cost us the opportunity from the position that we were in to go on and do it. And unfortunately, it isn't the first time that those things have been issues with this manager, unfortunately. And we're hoping they're going to keep changing. We're hoping it's going to get better and he's going to stop making those same mistakes. And it doesn't seem as though that's happening enough in the key moments. I mean, Neil, I know, I know you up until very recently were still convinced we was going to win it, even when it started to maybe go a little bit wrong, with the Liverpool game and the West Ham game, what have you. But I mean, what did you make of the Premier League season overall? It's easy just to focus on the last sort of 10 games and think, terrible. We were terrible in the last 10 games, and we were. But overall, over the 38 games, obviously there has been improvements. The number of wins, the number of goals, the number of points, all this kind of stuff. A massive improvement. But what have you made of it overall? And do you feel it was a missed opportunity for us to have actually won the Premier League? Because how many more opportunities are we going to get? Because it doesn't come around very often, let's be honest, in the current climate.
Yeah, let's start with that. Yeah, 100% missed opportunity. Of course it is. We were in control. It's as simple as that. Even following the run of the 3 draws and the loss to City, we still were in it. We still were in it even then. Yeah, it was obviously a lot harder, but that's the comfort we'd had before that because we'd picked up what was it 3 points in 12, and yet we were still in it. So it was always in our control. It was extremely disappointing, extremely frustrating. But however, I'll take a slightly different take on it. Steve made some brilliant points, and I'm not going to disagree with hardly any of them. But just from a different point of view, for me, it was on the whole, it was a nice season because there was a lot of highs. There were so many. For me, I felt like it was a family again.
Yeah,
I felt that there was belief. There was something to look forward to. In the last few years, I have not even been interested in who we were playing next. It got that bad. I'm not saying I've neglected my club. Of course not. I'll never do that. But, this time it'd be like, all right, so who we got next? And then I'll be interested in, well, who are they playing? Who are them? Okay, we got them. And it was I was looking forward to games. When we were on the podcast with Melvin, we'd all say, well, I'm actually looking forward to the next game. And that, being part of the community and of course the fans have been absolutely fantastic as well. The games that I've been lucky to go to, the atmosphere has been exceptional. This is what we live for. We were talking earlier that, we look forward to the FA Cup final and all the drama, all the romance with it. But actually going to each of those individual games, it was a fun-filled, exciting and, highly emotional affair. And that's down to the fans. That's no one else. That's the fans, and it made the atmosphere. You got back to the point of actually speaking to people you've never met before, and talking to them and saying, oh yeah, what do you reckon? Do you reckon? Do you think this could be it? This could be our season, and it just gives you that energy. And sometimes everyone's lifestyles are different, and the stories are different. And sometimes, things maybe not going so well in your life. And then you have something like this. It's such a pick-me-up. In the Fever Pitch, they said it, and he said it brilliantly in Fever Pitch. It feels like when Arsenal are shy, well, something to the word shy, it feels like life's shy, and the other way around as well. And then there is a truth in that, because we are so invested in it. It's our family, guys. It's family. It's part of our family. It's an extension of a family. And so for me, overall, I will actually finish now in conclusion. Obviously I was heartbroken over the last few weeks. I have been heartbroken, but I'll say I enjoyed it overall because there were so many highs, and I don't want to just dismiss them as if they were nothing. And having said that, absolutely. I mean, and if he's just going a bit forward, if he strengthens. If he does, it's not just about replacements of course, Steve, you're right. He's got to get rid of a lot of players now. And some of them are aging. Xhaka, it looks like he's gone anyway. And I agree with you. I think Xhaka has been a rock He's been absolutely immense. This doesn't matter what's happened in the previous seasons, but that's one thing Arteta did get right. He managed to play him in a system that suited him. He played him in a position that suited him because he was doing what he does internationally as well. We always used to think, he's going to play so well for his country. Why can't he do it for us? But maybe it just wasn't the right situation for us. It wasn't the right setup for him. But he had that this season, and he's been brilliant. But you've got some of those players that are potentially going to move in. You've mentioned Tierney. Smith Rowe, it looks like now there's some noise that he's actually going to stay. Thank God, because that was really annoying me big time. But it's not just about replacing players. We have to add, because we need, as Rich has been crying, going blue in the face, saying we haven't got the depth. Yeah. And to compete on, forget the Europa now. Now we're in the Big Boys Cup, the big boys in Europe. And you're absolutely right. The levels are going up, nth degree. And to even have a chance, even to get as far as what you're saying, Rich, that maybe the quarters, maybe by some miracle, the semis, you need depth. It's simple mathematics. It's common sense. So we have to be so cute in this window. It's unreal. And I'm hoping that we do. And I know we had a little bit of a kind of a disagreement with the learning thing. And I understand, because you said, well, has he learned really? Because he still kept on to certain players. But at least I'd still stand by the fact that he's had the experience of actually challenging this season, which he hadn't had before. He's had the experience of challenging, although, he completely capitulated near the end. But I think hopefully, if he is a person that learns by his mistakes, maybe one by one, maybe not all at the same time, he will learn from that. And I'm still hopeful. At the end of the day, he's the manager. We've got to back him for next season. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. And I'm hoping that those holes can be, at least there's an attempt to fill them. I'm not saying we have to go and win 3 trophies next season, because that's stupid, right? What I am saying is I want to see the effort to win those 3 or 4 trophies next season. And I want us to be fighting. Now that, if you want to talk about a disappointment for me this season, it's not the fact that we just let the trophy, we didn't win it. What annoyed me was even after losing, those couple of games, and we kind of turned it around against Newcastle. No one expected. All right, by rights, by what City are, the title had gone. But I still wanted to see Arsenal make them actually win it on the last day of the season, not just gift it to them. And, we don't, just have to turn up against Chelsea. We don't have to do anything because we've already won the title. That's ridiculous. That's the bit. That was for me, the most frustrating part. I really hated that.
Yeah.
Do you not?
I was going to say, even when Liverpool didn't win the league, at least they took Man City to the final day.
Exactly that.
They didn't say, well, we can't win it, so let's just give up and give away our last 3 or 4 games. Liverpool kept winning, and they took it to the last
Rich,
day.
can I say something, right? I've said this to everyone I've spoken to, other podcasts, whoever I've spoken to, and I'll say it again. When I was at that Brighton game and I saw those players walk out, for me, they were carrying white flags. It's almost even before the kickoff, they'd given up after probably hearing that, City had beaten Everton 3-0. And that infuriated me. I just thought, what you should be doing, that should actually be driving you even more.
Of course it should.
Right, you think you've won it now, don't you? Just because you've beaten Everton at their ground. No. We're going to smash Brighton to pieces. You're still going to have to work for this. Yeah, that's the attitude I want to see.
That's exactly that. Yeah.
Did you not find it interesting? Just so, guys, a little bit of conspiracy theory, because we like a bit of conspiracy theory. Do you not find it interesting that all of a sudden, a few games towards the end of the season, Ivan Toney gets his, half a season ban? When Man City are going to, I'm just putting it out there, but Man City are going to Brentford, and all of a sudden it could have been potentially down to that Brentford game, and Ivan Toney.
They lost anyway. They lost to Brentford anyway without Toney. So it didn't matter, did it?
Do you not find that a little bit weird? Yeah?
It was. The timing of that was strange. Well, just in general, the fact that there was 2 weeks left of the season. Wait till the end of the season, man.
Yeah,
what difference is 2 weeks going to make? It just made no sense whatsoever. So the timing was weird. I don't think it's to do with the fact they were playing Man City. It's just strange that they did it with a couple of games left of the season.
I'm
just banning at the end of the season. That's it.
The FA were worried. They were just worried that we were going to win. That's where, and they just sort of.
I won't put it past them, Steve, to be honest.
We'd already lost it.
No lines on the VAR. Tony getting a ban.
Oh,
So it's all stacked against us, mate. God, I sound like a Tottenham fan.
No. But you know, there is. I know we don't. You can't make excuses. I'm not even trying to make excuses. But they are facts. They actually said that they were mistakes. You know, normally you don't get that, but we got the feedback, official feedback, saying they're mistakes. So we could have had a couple more points here and there, which may have made things a bit more interesting and juicy. But it is what it is. We are where we are.
I mean, the only thing I would say is, and yes, you know, the Brentford game's the one that's mentioned the most, isn't it? Because of the Lions, and they admitted a mistake afterwards. But what we've got to remember is that at that point in the game, there was still 15 minutes to go.
Yeah,
and Brentford had been pressing, and if that goal had been disallowed, the last 15 minutes wouldn't have been the way it was, and it finished the way it was. The likelihood Brentford would have attacked still to try to get the goal, and they may well have scored anyway. We'll never know.
Absolutely.
It's impossible to say. And all the other decisions as well. People say, oh, well, I know goals can change games, and they do. But when there's still 15, 20 minutes, 45 minutes, I mean, at the Man United game away when Martinelli scored in the first half, there's so much of the game left. It's difficult to put that on to say, well, the result would have been different. It's impossible to say that. It may have been, but it may not have been.
Listen, in fairness to the FA, right, taking out the VAR and everything else, they've been exceptionally useless and pathetic and just special needs across every team. Now, everybody's suffered from those guys. So I just think that their lack of their lack of concentration has been for everyone, but not just us. But I still think it's rigged for Tony.
Well, I'm not sure if it's rigged, but it's terrible. There's no doubt about that. It's not. It needs to be improved one way or the other. But anyway, Rajendra says, I feel the team did very well. In certain aspects, they did do very well. I agree. In other aspects, they didn't do too well. And that's football, I guess. And that's why we're where we are. And we're not winning trophies as much as we could. John says, how many times were we saying this while doing a watch-along? He didn't use the squad yet. We mentioned it lots of times all the way through the season. Terry says, the thing that gets me, we didn't even have to beat City to win the game. No, we didn't. Yeah. We lost both games. We could have won it anyway, despite losing both games. Exactly, we could have done
2 games. Yeah. We need to win 2 more games. We'd have got it.
Yeah, but I do think the 5 points is the last 2 games. Man City got 1 point against Brighton and Brentford. Had they needed to win them games, I think we would have seen different results, and I think they would have probably got 6 points, and they'd have won it. But they'd have been 11 points above us if they needed.
I'm with you, Rich. But
they didn't need to win, so they didn't have to. And fair enough. But why would you? Well, you don't need to. Just go through the motions. They got 2 big cup finals to come. I wasn't surprised by those 2 results, and I'm sure they wouldn't have been those 2 results if they needed the result. But James says the rotation was there in the cup games, but the second team players were either not fit or not good enough to be switched. Well, yeah, but who brought them players in? Most of them. Who bought them? Vieira sitting on the bench, not good enough. Lukonga were brought in. He played 1 game and send him out on loan because he's not good enough. You know, a lot of the players on the bench were players that this management team have brought into the club. If they're not good enough, whose fault's that? If he didn't trust them to use them, but then there were times we said ESR was fit, didn't use him. Tierney was fit, didn't use him. So it's not that the players weren't good enough. There were players that were good enough and wasn't used. Trossard did well, was benched as soon as Jesus became fit.
Unbelievable.
A lot of really strange decisions. I mean, we're going to do a few little awards in a minute. One of the awards I was going to do, but I couldn't. I thought it's pointless doing one because it would be too much to choose from. Would have been Arteta's weirdest moment of the season, strangest decision of the season. There's literally 100 weird decisions that Arteta made this season.
Thomas Partey, right back.
The list is endless. I literally wrote that. I got to about 50 things I wrote down and think, well, that's not worth doing that because how can you pick one of them? They're all as strange as each other. And there was loads more besides. I'd only got halfway through the season. Loki says the Everton, Southampton and West Ham games were the most disappointing for me.
Yeah.
Newcastle away was excellent. Oh, yeah, agree. Newcastle away was one of our best performances of the season, without a doubt. Magnificent Jeffar says, hi everyone, late but glad to catch up with you guys. No, good to see you again. Hope you're well. John says, correct me if I'm wrong, but were Arsenal the only team in the top 6 to lose home and away to City? Oh, that's interesting.
I think so.
I think we may have been, because I know obviously Man U beat them at home, didn't they? Newcastle got a draw with them at home. Who else was in the top 6? Brighton, obviously. Brighton got a draw against them. Who else in the top? Liverpool beat them, didn't they? They beat them at Anfield, didn't they? Liverpool beat Man City. So we were the only team in the top 6 to lose home and away. Yeah, there you go. But as Steve said, we could have won the league anyway, regardless of that. If we picked up points in other teams that we should have beaten. Southampton 2 points in 6 against Southampton. We finished bottom. Everybody beat them except us. Just ridiculous. I mean, I don't understand how that even worked. We lost away at Nottingham Forest. We lost away at Everton. These are teams at the bottom of the league. We lost those away games. Just terrible. I'll say Southampton. Just how we dropped all those points to those teams that we should have beaten. John says were there off the field issues with ESR not playing? We don't know for certain. There's rumours there may be. Who knows? Something's obviously gone on because he should have been playing a lot more than he was at certain times. But anyway, James says, yes, John, Arteta called out his application and effort in training and also his weight after the World Cup break. Yeah, well,
Former dog.
Yeah,
he did dog to get his mind in the right place, didn't he?
Yeah, maybe he said, he'd put on a bit of weight. Here's a dog. Go and take a dog for a walk around the block a few times. That'll help you.
I don't think he'll sit. That's a massive, massive operation that he's had. Like we can't underestimate just how big.
Yeah, of course. It is. Yeah, no, it was a big operation. But if he's fit enough to sit on the bench, he's fit enough to play for 20 minutes.
Exactly, Rich. You don't put someone on the bench if they're neither mentally not right or physically not right. You don't put them on the bench. The bench is not there to make up numbers. We're a professional football team. You have to have proper players on the bench or fit players. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. If they're not fit and they can't contribute, I mean, really, the players on the bench should be able to play 90 minutes because you don't know when you're going to need them. And if they're not fit enough to play 90 minutes, they shouldn't be on the bench.
I agree.
He clearly was on the bench, so he was fit to play, and he didn't pick him. Didn't bring him on for so many games. He sat there and sat there. He hasn't actually. ESR hasn't started a game all season. He hasn't started one match in any competition. And yes, he was injured for a long spell. We've got to bear that in mind. But he was on the bench a lot as well without coming on. And something's gone on. And maybe James is right. Maybe there was issues behind the scenes with him. I don't know. But that's why the manager's got to manage that player. That's what the manager's there for. You've got, if there's a problem with a player that you know how good he is, he got Arteta out of trouble 2 years ago. Him and Saka between them kept Arteta his job. The least you can do then is manage him better. If he's got problems,
that's a great shout.
You've got to do that. You've got to. Some other players you can think, well, no, like Ozil, all them, like, oh no, don't worry about them. But with ESR, you've got to manage him better if there's an issue. You've got to.
He's an amazing talent.
That's and look what he's done for the club. Look what he's done. He got 12 goals last season. And some of those games that he kept Arteta in his job the season before as well. So him and Saka.
I've always said that he's got room to grow, even become better than Saka. I really do believe it. I think he's raw talent. He's got more. I think. But even the Trossard thing dumbfounded me. They were doing so well, Martinelli, Trossard and Saka up front. That lineup was devastating. And then as soon as Jesus was fit, see you later, Trossard. After all the good, he's got 10 assists since January. Most players don't get that in 2 seasons, and he got 10 assists since January. And he was close to scoring about 3 or 4 more goals. He had how many times he hit the bar? He had the other one that was disallowed. Nothing wrong with it.
Yeah. No, you're right. I mean,
I want to see a lot of Trossard next season. I'm sorry, because I think he's a fantastic player.
That was one of the many baffling decisions that I found. Yes, Jesus had done well at the start of the season, right? And Jesus was back and he was fit again. But surely that front three is used to that. In particular, I thought Trossard and Martinelli linked up so well.
Brilliantly.
They had such an understanding. And then he changed it. And it was no surprise that within a couple of games of him changing it, we started dropping points. It was no surprise at all because he's disrupted what was working. And the rest of the season he hadn't done that. He hadn't made random changes for no reason. Even when Eddie Nketiah was playing, we kept winning games, so he kept him in the team. Even though we know he wasn't good enough. Yes, we didn't have a lot of other options, perhaps, but even so, he kept playing him. And then suddenly he's got something that's working, and he changed it. Why did he do that when he doesn't do that usually? It was so out of character of Arteta, and it didn't even work. And it proved to be one of the reasons I think why we dropped all those points that we did, because it disrupted the pattern of the team that we had that was working so well. And then Trossard wasn't the same player after that because he came off the bench. He had impacts here and there, but he wasn't the same player coming off the bench as he was.
You can't blame him. You can't blame him, can you?
No, you can't. Well, some players are more. Some players don't always have an impact from the bench. It's just not in their game. They're better off starting games than coming off if that's what you want to do. Other players make a real big impact from the bench, don't they?
Like Nelson, maybe.
Trossard's one of them players that maybe doesn't have an impact from the bench more than other players do. And I don't know. But the manager should know that because he's managing him. And he didn't seem to get that right, did he? But anyway, maybe it's a bit of a learning thing, and hopefully next season he'll get that right. James says, if apologies were points, we'd have won the league with a gap of 5 points, at least 5 points. We'd have had it wrapped up by February, I would say. Jeff says this summer it's on the owners. We should be absolutely perfect on the market, especially if we want to compete with City. United are going big in the market.
Yeah.
That's scary. We need to spend 250
million.
Well, I don't know. I never like putting an amount that we have to spend. We have to spend wisely. We have to buy the right players for what we need and the right number of players. What they cost is what they cost. We have to do it though. We can't turn around and say, well, we're not going to pay this amount for this player and we'll get someone inferior because they're cheaper. No, that's a waste of money. You're better off paying more. You get what you pay for in life generally. Yes, some players are overpriced. Mudryk is an example of that, and one or two others. Is Declan Rice worth 120 million? Probably not. But if you want the player and they're going to be what you need, sometimes you've got to bite the bullet and do it and get it done so you get what you need out of the season for the team. But we'll see what happens. John says City took their foot off the gas when they won. Yeah, of course they did, because they got cup finals to come, haven't they? And you can't find them. Jeff says how many of our bench players start for any top 6 team in the league? Well, ESR maybe, if he's properly fit, would probably start. Trossard, obviously, he's been a bench player. He would start. Jorginho has been a bench player. He would start for most top 6 teams. So there's a few, but not enough. I agree. That is an area we need to improve.
Jorginho's played well since he's come. So Rich, quick one. What's your view on the talk about taking Gundogan from Man City?
I mean, I can see the positives and the negatives, really. The positives are he's an experienced player in the Premier League. He understands Mikel Arteta, which is quite difficult to do. And I think that's where we struggled in the past with players. So I think that there's positive. He's a good player. Yeah. But equally, on the negative side, Man City aren't going to let us have a player who they feel is going to improve us significantly to challenge them. Yeah, that's why they gave us Jesus and Zinchenko for the same reason. Zinchenko's rubbish completely. And Jesus is a good player, but he doesn't score the goals that we needed. And Pep knows that. Pep knew that. Pep knew Jesus was coming to be our number 9 striker, and Pep knew he wouldn't score 20 goals because he knows he's not got that in him as a player, because that's not what he does. And Arteta wanted him because he fits that role nicely. So it was a good deal for both of them. But it's no way Man City are giving us their top players. Absolutely no chance. They won't. If Man City allow Gundogan to come to Arsenal, it's because Gundogan isn't good enough to play for Man City. And if he's not good enough to get in the Man City team, why should we have him?
In fairness, he's a free, so he's out of contract and hasn't signed a new contract. But no, I get it. So Cancelo's the other one that we're looking at the moment as well. And Pep doesn't like it. So apparently, they've had a fallout. Now, I just find it interesting. But he's an older player. At the end of the day.
Yeah.
So
we're losing one in Xhaka, aren't we? At least one, maybe one or two others. But we're losing an experienced player. We've got to at least start getting a couple of experienced players in. And Gundogan fits that role. And I wouldn't say if we can get him for free, there's going to be big wages probably. But I wouldn't be against the signing him. My worry is Arteta seems now to be going to Man City for players he's worked with before, because he doesn't trust himself to work with players that don't know him and don't understand him. And he's struggled, hasn't he? You look at the players he's brought in that hasn't worked out. There's a whole list of them. Some of them are sitting on the bench. Some of them can't get anywhere near the team. And it's a problem, isn't it? And yet the 2 he bought from Man City, picks them every week. No problems with him at all. So he's probably looking at it like that. If he can buy half the Man City team, the Man City rejects that Pep doesn't want, Arteta will probably be happy. Is that what we need to take us to that level? Probably not, because they're not good enough for Man City at that level. Why would they be good enough for us to take us to that level? I don't know. Are they better than what we've got? Some of them might be. I'm not saying not to buy them, but it's a worry for me that he's going back to the players that he's worked with before rather than buying in players that he hasn't worked. Because that's what you need to do. He took a risk with Trossard and Jorginho. It's worked. Players he hadn't worked with before, and they've come in and done a really good job. But yet he's not picking them regular in the team. Why? They should be regular starters. They should have been regular starters at the beginning, all the way through, both of them. And they haven't been. And that's a worry for me. He's gone back to what he knows. He always goes back to what he knows, ultimately. And that is a worry for me. And that's why I wouldn't be surprised if Gundogan does come for that reason, because Arteta knows him. He's worked with him. And he's not going to be surprised by Arteta's weirdness in talking about, buying fluffy dogs for the training ground, all these weird stuff that Arteta does. Gundogan will know it, and he's used to it. He'll be like, okay, yeah, that's fair enough. I know that. I know what that's about. Some of the other players, like that on All or Nothing, when Aubameyang, some of the things that Arteta was saying, you could see Aubameyang's face thinking, who is this guy? What is he on about? Arteta didn't get him. Aubameyang didn't get Arteta, did he? And that was why it ended up the way it did. Arteta knows Gundogan gets him. He knows Zinchenko gets him. He knows Jesus gets him. And he's gone with safe options to buy. I think Zinchenko's been a waste of time myself. That's my opinion. because he can't defend for Toffee. He's a left back who can't defend. What's the point in that? But anyway, that's just an example. It's a player he knows. Jafar says, I like Ilkay Gundogan, but won't have him at Arsenal. We need young, proven, hungry players in the league. Go get Casado, Rice, and midfield is sorted, and you can even have Ilkay for depth. I mean, I think we need more experience. We've got a fairly young team.
Yeah. That
was one of our problems. I think we need some experience as well. And Gundogan fits that. I wouldn't be against us getting him. We need more than that, obviously. We've got
Jorginho that does a very similar role. I actually disagree. Yeah. So for me, Declan Rice
scores more goals.
Yeah, Declan Rice is West Ham's captain and has been for a very long time, and has played a big role in the England setup. I think he can come in, and I think as a deputy to Odegaard or as an enforcer for Odegaard, I think he'd absolutely. I see him fit in that Xhaka role perfectly, absolutely perfectly. Whether Sasado gives me the Thomas Partey, there is something. Thomas Partey, when he's running and he's working and he's purring properly, he's amazing to watch. He's absolutely amazing to watch. Very injury prone. I think he fell away towards the end of the season because he was just overplayed and he's an older player. So no, I think Sasado.
Or is that to do with maybe some issues outside of football that's going on in his life?
I don't want to comment on. I don't want to comment on that. I don't want to comment on that. But
there's a possibility that other things have affected his form as well as the fact that he's run out of legs a little bit. Is there other reasons behind it? We don't know. We can only speculate, but
let's hope it's not. Whatever the
exactly. Let's hope it's not. Yeah, exactly. Let's hope it's not. But I suppose we have to consider that possibility.
I think Sasado, Declan Rice type with Jorginho there, because there's interest. I can't remember what the game was. It was watching Jorginho, then Smith Rowe doing keepy uppies. So like doing this keepy uppies thing. Smith Rowe couldn't for the life of him keep up with Jorginho. Jorginho was like, he was just kicking the ball from one leg to the next, like side footing it over to him. And Smith Rowe picked the ball up, threw it at him. So it's interesting. But Jorginho, if you watch him when he's actually playing, he's pulling that midfield around and telling people what to do. And so I think we've got that depth. I think we've got that with that type of player, which is why, like, Gundogan's a great player. I just wonder whether he's the right player for what we need, and I don't think he is.
That's the worry. Yeah, he's a good player. James says he don't want Cancelo at all. Why would you buy a player who Pep and Tuchel both felt was a liability if he's not good enough for City and Bayern, who's supposedly competing with no fact? Yeah, but I mean, Zinchenko was considered a liability by Pep. We still bought him, so it is what it is, isn't it? I mean, I'm not overly keen on Cancelo either, but again, if Arteta knows him and he knows Arteta, then it may be what will work. I don't know. But anyway, these are all things that's going to happen in the summer. We shall see. James says Casado has a higher ceiling than Thomas Partey will ever have 100%. Yeah, I agree. I think Casado is a great player and he should be one that we should be getting. He's leaving Brighton. We know that. Brighton have already said he's leaving. Let's go in and get it done. Let's get him nice and early in the window. Get him signed up straight away. Lovely job done. Right, okay, let's finish then with a few little awards that we'll go through. We'll start with the bad ones first and work our way up to the good ones. So let's start with this. By the way, I've put some pictures on that, just pictures I've picked. Don't let that influence your decision when you vote, because it doesn't have to be this particular.
I'm always worried, Rich. When you give a warning like that always worries me, mate.
I've just had to put a picture on, so I've picked a picture myself. Probably my vote potentially, but don't let that influence your vote. So this is the first one. So most disappointing player, I did put Fabio Vieira on because to me he has been certainly one of the most disappointing players. Whether or not he wins the award, we'll have to wait and see. But he's probably going to get my vote. Steve, most disappointing player this season. Who
put that bloke in a clown cannon and fire him onto the Tottenham because that is where he needs to be. The guy is a buffoon. Get rid of him. Like 35 million wasted. Like, yeah, absolutely. 100 of all the players on our team, but yeah, second only to Tavares. I've got to turn around and say, absolute village simpleton. Get rid of the idiot.
I think that's a bit harsh, but I tend to agree with the sentiment. He's definitely been the most disappointing player for 35 million indeed. Neil, anybody else for you?
I'm not going to go as far as be as colourful as Steve's there. I would no, but I would say Fabio's been a tad disappointing. I think he just was not ready for the Premiership. I don't think that's particularly his fault. He's just not ready for the Premiership.
No, I agree. I don't think it is his fault, and he's not strong enough physically. No. He's not quite good enough yet, and he may well develop. But no, for this season, I think he's been our most disappointing player.
Yeah,
especially as he did cost a fair amount of money. It's not like he was free or
exactly that.
We picked him up for peanuts. We put an investment in him, and it's not worked. So unfortunately, sorry, Fabio. I know Steve doesn't really love you, but we love you. You're just not good enough, unfortunately. So you have one most disappointing player of the season. Unanimous vote, boy. I'm sorry it was a unanimous vote, but anyway, there we go. Right, this is the next one. I mean, I've used the Nottingham Forest game as the low point of the season. It probably wasn't actually, but it was just a recent picture that I had, so I thought I'd use it. I mean, there was quite a few towards the end. It's difficult to pick one really low moment because there were so many. Man City away, the performance there was just terrible. That was a real low, but losing to Man City isn't a disaster. Probably for me, actually, the Southampton home game. If you can't beat Southampton at the bottom of the league, quite honestly, you don't deserve to win anything. And to me, that was probably the low point of the season. You know, getting a draw in the 98th minute against Southampton at home is not really for a team that was chasing a title. So I think, although I put Nottingham Forest in there, I think Southampton at home is probably the low point of the season for me. Steve, what would you say?
Oh, I think it's unfair. Liverpool couldn't beat them. But anyway, that's another thing. For me, it's got to be Sporting Lisbon with our goalie being lobbed from like 500 miles away, you know, from the Tottenham Stadium.
That was a great goal, but yeah, you're right.
Yeah, that to me was the absolute low of the season. Penalties, I hate them. I'm too old for that sort of heart attack type stuff. So for me, it's Sporting Lisbon, mate. It's got to be.
No, well, Sporting Lisbon was bad at the time. That was a bad one, losing. Point. Neil, what have you got for us on a low point?
I've got nothing to say because Steve just makes me laugh. I think there were a few. I think, I agree with you, Rich, the Southampton one. For me, even the West Ham, being complete control against West Ham and then just capitulating. Even Liverpool. I know everyone keeps going on about it's Anfield, but we were all over them. All over them. Why couldn't we just carry that on for the rest of the game? What's the matter with us? God. That was frustrating, but if there's a disappointment for me, I know you're going to won't be surprised, the Saliba injury. That, for me, was very disappointing.
Yeah. It was disappointing. Yeah, James has gone there. He says losing Saliba and Tomiyasu in the same game, low of the season. Yeah, I mean, Tomiyasu wasn't really playing much, but he would have been important with Saliba out. So that was unfortunate. James says they've ruined the whole season. Yeah, Loki's gone Everton. Yeah, Everton was bad, actually. That was probably our worst performance because at the time, we were flying. You know, that was when we got to 50 points. That was our next game. And to play the way we did there, that was a total surprise at the time. Where did that come from? That's a last season performance. So yeah, that was a low point actually, Everton. But yeah, I mean, there's so many. It's difficult to maybe pick one, isn't it? Really, there's so many of them. But yeah, maybe the Saliba injury, because of the impact that it had, it shouldn't have had that much impact. Losing one player or two players, it should have done. It did. So yeah, maybe the Saliba injury probably was the turning point in the season. Maybe if it's not necessarily a low point, it was certainly a turning point, wasn't it? But there was a few. Right, that's all the kind of bad ones. Let's go for some good ones now. So let's start with a nice positive award. That's good. Again, don't be influenced by the picture. So I've used Fulham away there for the performance of the season because that first half at Fulham was almost perfect football, wasn't it? The second half, obviously at 3-0 up, you don't care about the second half. So that was a good performance. There was a lot this season, a lot of good performances, unusually for the last few seasons, which was nice. But yeah, I did like the way we played against Fulham. But probably for me, maybe Brighton away, a difficult place to go. They're a good side. That 4-2 victory, that was, we conceded a couple of late goals, which maybe took the gloss off it a little bit, but that was an impressive performance. And Newcastle as well. Newcastle away was a really, really impressive performance against a very good side who finished top four. So probably between those two for me, and the first half at Fulham, which was fantastic. I mean, Steve, what would you say performance of the season?
I'm going to go for the North London derby at the Tottenham toilet. So, absolutely showed them who's boss, showed them why North London's red, showed them everything they needed to know. Harry Kane was spitting, as he normally does afterwards while he was talking. Genuinely destroyed them. Best day of my life. I think it was in Dallas at the time. I was in Dallas singing along. Right. I was absolutely wasted. And don't drink, people. But no, for me, it's a North London derby. I think it was the dominance that we showed. And that to me, really, it was just brilliant. It was just brilliant when you see Tottenham fans walking out of a pub all stressed by the whole day, and you haven't even got past the first half. So to do it at theirs, to do it at ours, North London derby all day long, mate.
The only thing I would say, and I agree, that was great, but Tottenham have just been terrible this season. So beating them isn't much of an achievement, is it? Really, it's like beating an under-6s team, isn't it? You know what I mean? It's all right.
No, Rich.
They're so bad. They are so bad.
No,
Take a little bit of the gloss off. It's nice to beat them home and away because we've not done that for a long time.
Jamie O'Hara.
They have been terrible.
Jamie O'Hara, my best mate, my buddy. Well, it was all we're going to derail it. We're going to do this. So, I know Harry Kane. Yes, I've got tattoos. But look, we absolutely, and even the Brentford game as well. We just it was like a training game for us. But no, for me, North London derby is so special. It's even bigger than the Manchester derby, I think. It's such a special game that everybody from around the world, 150 fans in Dallas, Texas, screaming for it. Such a special game, and to rule both at home and at theirs. Remember what it was like when they beat us at theirs. Remember what happened. Your best mate, getting a red. So no, mate, it's got to be North London derby. I know we played really well. There's loads and loads of games. That's been the beauty of this journey. Actually, there's been a whole thing, all the highs and lows. But that North London derby was the best ever.
It was good. It was. James has gone for Newcastle away as well. Yeah, and that was a very, very good performance. Neil, what would be your best performance of the season?
Oh, if I had to pick one, it'd be Newcastle away because we were just so professional, and that was after being under the cosh. See, we were under pressure, and I that surprised even me, Mr. Optimistic. I was like, oh my God, where did that come from? After the 2 results we got, I thought, wow, that's something. That's what gave me the renewed hope again. And they just bottled it again. Well, not bottled. I'm not going to use the word bottled, but I'm going to go with Steve. I mean, I know what you mean, Rich, but beating Tottenham anytime, I would beat them 365 days a year. I'd be happy. None would be less boring than the other. It's just fantastic. But beating them. But, the fact that we have been chastised for so many years. When's the last time you beat the top 6? When's the last time? Well, actually, we beat all of them this season, didn't we? Apart from Man City. So that they were all great results. Beating Man U at home, beating Liverpool at home, Tottenham, of course, Chelsea, teaching them a lesson about, you can spend 8,000 trillion. Don't mean nothing, does it really? So, plenty. But Newcastle, if you got me to choose one, I thought Newcastle was magnificent.
It was. Newcastle was a great all-round performance, wasn't it? Good, brilliant away performance, wasn't it? Solid at the back, dangerous going forward on a counter-attack. Brilliant. We could have scored 4 or 5 goals against one of the best teams in the league. So, But no, obviously, beating Tottenham is great fun, even when they are crap. Another one there could be quite a lot of options for this one, but we'll see what we make. Again, go with my picture if you want, but this will be quite an interesting one.
That's a hard
one. About Tottenham there. Thomas Partey's goal against Tottenham. I mean, there's been a lot of great goals this season that we've scored.
That was a rocket. Thomas Partey
was a rocket. Top corner, bang, brilliant strike that was. I mean, there has been so many great goals. It's difficult to pick one. Saliba's one at Bournemouth when he chipped the keeper. That was an unbelievable goal, wasn't it? Early in the season, that was just Saka's goal against Man U, and he banged it in the corner. That was a great goal, and I mean, Saka's got a lot of great goals this season. Let's be honest.
Yes.
Almost a goal of the season on his own. Saka's had, hasn't he? With so many great strikes that he had. But Jesus' first home game of the season, his first goal, and he chipped the keeper there as well, and another great goal. There's been a whole catalogue of great goals, really, hasn't there? But I would probably go for the Thomas Partey goal against Tottenham. One, because it's against Tottenham, as we said before. It was the opening goal of a game at the time. Tottenham wasn't quite as crap then. It was a potentially a difficult game. He got that first goal, and it was a great strike, and that was the platform for that dominant performance, wasn't it? And it was a great goal. But there has been a lot to pick from, so we'll see what else we come up with. Steve, what would be your
Reece Nelson.
Goal of the season.
Oh, you stole my
Reece Nelson as
thunder.
well. And listen, I've like don't get me wrong. I mean, we did honestly hand Tottenham their backsides on a plate, not once but twice. I'm going to keep saying that and keep going through that, especially when I do Mario Kart around the new go-kart track. I can't wait. But that goal, like the noise, I've never ever heard the Emirates. And did you know that actually the earthquake, there was the earthquake monitors in London were set off, and it came in as a mini earthquake in London with the noise that was made when that goal went in. So for me, it was on the wrong foot, top right hand corner. It's right by where I sit as well. So it was all happening. The ball that came in, last minute, bang, top right hand corner. Oh my God, that I've never heard those fans, and it goes back to what you said, Neil. It's about that connection that we have. What a great place it is right now. But to see that rocket in that's it, mate. That's it. That's the goal.
Isn't those moments what we live for football? Why
all day long?
That is that moment.
Yeah,
you can just capture that one moment and say, "This is why football isn't just a game. This is why we love football. This is why we invest so much time in football. It's for that."
Yeah,
that's it. Yeah, totally agree with you. I mean, Steve, I think both of you have actually stole my thunder, because even Partey, I was going to suggest that. So I'll be different, and I'll go for the guy that I so desperately want to stay at the club. I know, Steve, you said we can get another centre back and stuff. I know, but I think there's something about Saliba that really makes Gabriel tick as well. He's got a great partnership with Gabriel. So for me, I'll go with the Saliba goal, because that was great as well. It was a fantastic goal, because I remember the players' reactions to it. It's like, oh my God, what's he just done?
Yeah, it was.
It was totally wasn't it?
It was a fantastic goal, that Saliba one, definitely. For a defender as well, you got to bear that in mind. Defenders don't often do stuff like that, do they? Very often. So, that was a great goal. But there has been a whole list. We could probably have done a top 10 and still missed out loads that deserve to be in there. So, and that's a good for the season, that we've had so many great goals. But I think maybe Nelson as well. Maybe we just get what it meant as well as anything else at the time. Obviously, in the end, it didn't mean much, but at the time, how important that goal was, and it was a great strike of his weaker foot. So we'll maybe give him that one. Mark C's got Odegaard away at Spurs. That was a good goal. Very similar to the one at Newcastle, wasn't it? Very similar strike to the one at Newcastle. Wasn't it? Almost similar goals. James said Saka v Man U. Yeah, that was a great goal. Saka's Man U goal it was as well. Yeah, that definitely worthy of a mention. John's got. He says 1-1 in the Europa League final, going to extra time. See, we'd have already won it by now if we were in it, so we wouldn't have needed extra time. But anyway. Never mind. So then we've had goal of the season, we've had performance of the season. Now another one again. Don't be influenced by the picture, but this is the next award.
Oh,
wow!
The most improved player. Now I put Ben White as a picture there just because I feel as though he has improved this season quite a lot, playing in an unusual position that we wasn't expecting him to play in. As the season went on, he developed into that role really well. And then at the end, he had to drop back into his more usual role, and he played well then as well. So I think over the season, Ben White, for me, really did step up a level. There's a few players that stepped up a level, but I think Ben White, one, because I think he's quite underrated anyway, generally. He's not picked for England for one reason or another. But I think this season he really has stepped up, Ben White, in a position I wasn't expecting to see him play, and he's done really well. So he would probably get my vote. But again, there's a few that have improved. Steve, where would you say most improved?
I think it's going to be a close one, but I think Odegaard, and I think Odegaard has stepped up to next level. And the reason I'm saying that is that his awareness is there's a little triangle that runs, and Ben White is key to that. And you watch them as they play. It's Odegaard, Saka, and Ben White, and the way they interact. But all of a sudden, there's a click that's happening with Odegaard. When he's not absolutely shattered because they've run him into the ground, but there's something Cesc Fabregas about him. It's a Cesc Fabregas and a Bergkamp kind of sort of hybrid with that guy. And for 35 million, I think he's amazing. Apart, and Vieira not. But for me, it's Odegaard, because I think now it's the catalyst. It's what drives them. If you watch teams now, they try and stop Odegaard moving, because he actually makes a lot of what we do tick. And that to me, he's like a metronome. The way that and he's running, the way he runs and runs and runs, he just does not stop. So he's a nightmare. So for me, it's Odegaard, because I think He's got, and I still think there's even more to come out of that guy.
Yeah.
And it's the rest of the team to follow him to try and keep up with the way he is. And it's like going back to watching Santi Cazorla or Sanchez, and there's something about him that I can't quite put my finger on, but I just feel that there's another level to come from him. And you can see why PSG are interested in buying him. You can see why they want to come in and get him.
Hands off.
Yeah, ain't going to happen. He's on a too long a contract at the minute.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Odegaard has had a good season, no doubt about that. So, I mean, has he improved more than other players? I'm not sure. But anyway, it's a good vote, and that will count. Neil, what about you? Who do you think's been the most improved this season? Obviously, a lot of choices, really.
Yeah, it's a hard one. Do you know what? Maybe unpopular opinion. I'm going to go with Xhaka.
Yeah, best season
Best season he's ever had. It's simple. How many he got? 7 goals and something similar assists, or no, 9. Was it 9 goals and 7 assists?
9 goals, yeah.
9 goals and 7 assists, yeah. Christ, where's that come from? Where's that come from? So for me, just looking at the stats alone is enough, but it's more than that. It's like what I was saying earlier about how he's just been reliable. He's been the experience that you've been talking about, Richard, on the pod quite a few times. You've mentioned it before, which is so important for a young group of players. Just someone that they can all look up to, they can lean on if they need to, even if it's not during game time and maybe during training or whatever it might be. I think the role that he's played, along with Jorginho, when Jorginho came in after January, have been magnificent. So I'd go with Xhaka, yeah, definitely.
No, that's a fair shout. I mean, I may be saving him for another award, but yeah, I mean, Xhaka's a good...
Sorry, I've just ruined it.
No, that's fine. You can pick him for that. That's absolutely fine. James has gone for Gabriel Martinelli. He's another one who I think he stepped up a level this season with the goals that he scored and his performances as well. So yeah, there's been quite a few, hasn't there, that have improved this season compared to last, and it's difficult to maybe narrow it down to one particular player. I mean, Xhaka probably has made the biggest improvement in terms of goals and assists compared to what he's been doing for the last 3 or 4 seasons. So yeah, that's a really good shout for that award. And but yeah, we'll maybe see. John says another high of the season is seeing Spurs implode. Nobody even wants to manage. Yeah, well, that's always fun seeing them implode. It's happened quite a few times over the years. We enjoy it, but yeah, it's definitely added to the fun. Right, okay, there is 2 more awards left. Obviously, one of them's the big one. But next one is going to be this. And again, the picture, don't let the picture influence your choice, but this is the next one. So the unsung hero of the season. My picture there is of Albert, the assistant, who I think actually does a lot of good stuff that maybe doesn't get the credit it deserves. Arteta takes all the credit as a manager, of course, and that's the way it is. But I do feel as though Albert's impact on everything going on is quite high, and I do feel as though he's maybe not given enough credit, as most assistants aren't really, are they? Let's be honest. So I wouldn't necessarily say he's been our unsung hero. I just happen to think he's never really mentioned at all, is he? Anything that we've ever done. So I just want to give him a little shout out, really. So well done, Albert, again, I think you're doing a great job, mate. So well done. But who do we think then is the unsung hero of Arsenal this season? Steve, who would you say?
Easy, mate. That's such an easy one. It's Gunnosaurus, isn't it? Biggest social media presence of any mascot in the in the world. So got to be number 1, or second only maybe to the photographer for doing that team talk. That was a bit rubbish, That was the season before, though, wasn't it? That was the season before. It's got to be Gunnosaurus, mate. Rubbish in goal, but kids love him. It's absolutely brilliant. So it's Gunnosaurus, unsung hero. I can't believe they're going to make him redundant. Get over yourselves. Come on, boys.
Oh no, terrible. I'm glad they changed their mind, because it's not the same. It wouldn't be the same without Gunnosaurus, but let's be honest.
No,
it just wouldn't be the same. Mark's gone. Odegaard's first goal v Chelsea at home. That was another one. All these goals are quite similar, Martin Odegaard's, aren't they? They're very similar goals. But yeah, that was another great goal as well. Yeah, James has gone for Gabriel for underrated, unsung hero, which that's a fair shout as well. Yeah. He's quite underrated as well, isn't he? Neil, who would you say is our unsung hero of the season?
Now James has done it. He stole my thunder on that one.
Oh, is he?
Right. So okay. Can I go for more than one?
Yeah, go for more than one. Yeah, go on.
The unsung hero, the fans.
Oh,
that's a good
God! I love that. You're so smooth. He's so smooth, that boy. Lee. He's so smooth. Like,
He is.
We're being hustled here, Rich. We're being hustled. I'm telling you.
Yeah, it looks that way. It looks that. That's pretty good. Yeah. Although I suppose unsung is probably the wrong word because they were singing more than normal.
Yeah,
so,
very true. I like that.
No, you're right. You're actually right. I mean, the fans have stepped up a level this season as well, and that needs to be mentioned as well. But I think they get the credit they did. I think so. I think Arteta and everybody appreciated what the fans have done.
They do.
So I wouldn't say it's going unnoticed, really, is it? It's more improvements that have gone unnoticed, maybe more so. But you can pick the fans if you want.
Thank
That's
you.
fine. Mark C says he's gone for Ben White for unsung hero, which is fair enough. But again, similar to what I said before about the sort of most improved. In Ben White. He is an unsung hero to a certain degree because he doesn't tend to get, people talk about the England squad, people talk about, who should be playing for England. No one really mentions Ben White. No. And he is quite unsung for what he does, and he's had a great season. And he's proved me wrong because I never really thought he was that great last season, if I'm honest. I think he was all right, but he wasn't that great. But this season, he's really stepped up. I've been really impressed with how he's played, his work rate, his application to every game. He's been one of the players, even when things were going wrong at the end, he still stuck at it and kept going. And I kind of like that. I like to see that. When things aren't going well, that's when you learn more about a player. And that's why Martin Ødegaard's frustrated me a little bit, because when things aren't going well, he disappears, and I don't like that. Whereas when things aren't going well, Ben White's still doing his job and still performing, so I quite like that.
And I love his interviews, Rich. He's so funny.
Yeah, he is funny,
unbelievably so. Love it.
James says Neil didn't pick the Duke. We've gone back to the Duke again, have we? We still don't know what that's all about, actually, but I'm sure we'll find out.
Oh my God!
I'm sure we'll find out one day. I'm sure.
Yes, you will. Gosh.
But no, Ben White, I must admit he's been brilliant this season, Ben White.
Yeah, agreed.
Hats off to him because I didn't think he had it in him, and he's proved me wrong. And that's great. That's what I like to see. So I'll tell you what we'll do before we come to the final award, which is the big one, obviously. I just want us all to give a mark out of 10 for this fella.
Oh no,
that's not fair.
Oh no!
We've got to. It's the season. We need a mark out of 10 for the manager because he's the mastermind behind all of this. So we need a mark out of 10 for Mikel Arteta this season. What are we saying, Steve? Out of 10 for Mikel Arteta.
8 out of 10 for it, actually.
8 out of 10. Okay.
And the reason why I've gone with that is that actually brought the fans closer to it. The team's actually has moved forward. We've fallen at the very end for 101 reasons, but 8 out of 10. Still think he's got a lot of work to do, but I wouldn't want another manager in there. I mean, look, you could be Spurs, and you could have Richarlison as well, but apparently better than Martinelli. So read into that what you want.
Respect.
8 out of 10. I mean, fair enough. A little bit high for me, but we'll take it. Neil,
I saw his face when Steve said that score.
Well, I was a bit shocked, to be honest. It was that high, but anyway, Neil, I can imagine what you're
talking about. Back on YouTube, I'm going to freeze that frame and then send it on to Richard.
There you
go. I'm actually surprised to see where that high. I mean, I will back managers, players, whatnot. I'll go. What did you say? 8. I think I'll go 7.5. 7.5 out of 10. Because for the similar reasons of the fans bringing, is at the end of the day, whatever you think of it, second, third, fourth, all the same. But we have finished just behind an unbelievable machine of a team, who have had, have got so much expanse in terms of breaching finances and whatnot. But they have got, as you guys were talking, I think before I came in there, the squad. Look at this squad. They've got 100 million players on the bench. I mean, it's. What normal teams can't compete with that sort of level. So to finish second behind them is no bad achievement. Right. So I'll go 7.5. I'm only just there is room for improvement. 7.5 with loads of room for improvement and to learn. There you go. That's my score.
Loki's gone 7.5 as well, so that's very similar. Terry's gone 4, a little bit harsh, Terry, maybe, but I kind of get where you're coming from.
Terry's obviously got a few call-outs today. That's why he's all grumpy.
Yeah, maybe so. James has gone 7. He says he gets an extra point for buying the dog. So you would have got 6 without the dog, would he? That's.
I can't wait for Richard.
I hope it's a rescue one. I hope it was a rescue one, because if not, he's going down. I'm in the 2.
Drop it to 2, yes, Steve.
Yeah, if he ain't rescued that dog, then that's it. He's going 2, mate.
The dog's quite sweet. Let's be fair. I mean, to be honest with you, throughout the season, my marks for Arteta have gone up and down. It's been 8 at one point, it's been 1 at one point, and it's kind of somewhere in between most of the time. I mean, I just feel as though when it mattered, he wasn't able to manage the team well enough at the crucial moments in the season, and this has happened before. And if we'd won a trophy and finished in the top 4, it would have been 8 out of 10 or more all day long, because that would be a fantastic season. For me, he dumped the cups too easily to concentrate on the league, and in the end, he wasn't able to get the league done either. So I think it's been there's been improvements, of course there has, but he's still making similar mistakes that he's made in previous seasons, and at some point he's got to learn, or if he doesn't learn, I don't see how he can carry on. So for me, I'll go 7, simply because the points total is impressive. 84 points, 88 goals in the Premier League, the most we've ever scored. Those numbers are impressive. They should have been a lot more points total in the end with the points that we threw away. But you have to say the improvement in the overall thing. Yes, I'm disappointed with the way it's finished. I'm disappointed we threw the cups away. But I think 7 overall, if you look at the season overall, is probably fair for the job that he's done this season. And that does leave, as we've said, room for improvement. And there has to be improvement. There has to be certain aspects of his management have to improve. Tactically, he's got to improve. He's got to be more flexible. He's got to rotate the team a lot more. He's got to work on certain players a little bit more, get more minutes in players, whatever reason. Tierney, ESR, people like that. He can't just bin them off because for whatever reason. If it's not working, you've got to work them in training and make it work. So when they play, they're ready to play. One of the reasons why we suffered burnout was because players that came into the team in some of the cup games wasn't quite up to the level at that point. So you've got to go away in training and work with them and improve them. And he wasn't able to do that. And when we had to play them later on, they were rusty because they hadn't played. And they hadn't improved from earlier in the season when they played. So there's work to be done. And next season is going to be crucial for Arteta, for the team, for the club, everybody. It's a really big season because we've got to build on this. I'm not saying I expect us to get 84 points again, because I do think that's a little bit of a freak number of points for this team to have got. It's a great total to have had. Can we repeat it? I'm not sure. We'll have to see what the transfer window brings, everything else. But yeah, I'll give him 7 out of 10, but definitely work for improvement. James says, is that a 7 with the dog as well? It's, to be honest, the dog's cute and everything else, but he brought it too late. He should have brought the dog at Christmas. Then we would have won the league, wouldn't we? So he almost gets minus the point for being too late with the dog because he brought it in far too late. So he needed to bring the dog in earlier. So finally, then the big one of the season, of course, the one everybody wants to win. And again, don't be influenced by my picture, but he's a player I'm voting for.
Damn it.
I have to say, it's for me, it's more about a redemption in a way. Jack has had a lot of criticism for a very long time, and I've generally backed him because I like him as a player. I like him as a person. I think he's represented Arsenal. Generally, yes, we know the stuff that's happened and stuff like that, but generally he's represented Arsenal really well on the pitch. You can see how much it's meant to him every single game that he's played. And I'm finally so happy that he's had the season that he's had. This is going to be his last season. That's really sad. But it's been great for me to see Xhaka this season. One, the way he's been playing, but two, the way the fans have actually now started to sing his name and support him, because I never thought I would see the day where people were singing Granit Xhaka's name at a game. I just didn't think I'd ever hear that at the Emirates. And to see that happening so many times this season, that's been so great. And he's deserved it because he has had a fantastic season. And yes, you could say he's been the most improved. He probably deserves to win that. You could say he could win lots of other awards as well. But for me, for all the other reasons as well, what he's gone through to get to this point, the way he's turned things around, and just the season he's had, 9 goals, 7 assists, whatever it is, incredible for a player that no one thought he had that in him. And to produce this season, yes, credit has to go to Arteta for that as well, and that's got what he's done. But I just think he has been. I thought last season he was probably our most consistent player as it was. I think I might have voted for him as player of the year last season, and this season he's just gone to another level completely. Just we never expected to see that. He's been brilliant from first to last game, and just he's the leader of this team. He's the leader on the pitch. And Tony Adams mentioned today about we don't have a sort of a physical leader, if you like. Xhaka is that physical leader, and he's been that physical leader in the team for a while, and we're going to lose him. And I don't think we're going to find it easy to replace him, personally. So for me, he gets Player of the Year for me, and I think he fully deserves it. But let's see what you guys think. Steve, what are you thinking, Player of the Year?
Okay, so I was going to go. So I'm going through that. So I'm going to go with Xhaka. Right, I'm going to go with Xhaka for the very reason you said, the redemption. I think the way he's come back from the brink. I was there at the game when he told us to go forth and multiply, and threw the shirt down. So I was there. To see where from that point to where he is now and such growth. So, but it was very close because I would have also looked at Ben White and Saliba actually, because I thought that as the season gone before Saliba and his injury, he was just looking unstoppable, although a little bit jaded. So, but for me, consistency, an engine that is phenomenal. I don't think he missed any games. Goal scoring capabilities, a leader on the pitch, and just generally. And I find it hard to say, a calm, all the the poop housery that he brought to it was brilliant, because he tugging on shirts, whole lot. And the same thing Ramsdale does to the away to the fans, the away fans especially at the Emirates. So you see all that sort of thing, and it all goes to play. And in it, but we ain't seen the 2-footed tackles, we haven't seen the red cards, we haven't seen all of that. It's kind of gone out of his game. So I wish him the best of luck. Whoever's getting him, wherever he ends up. Again, an amazing player, and I never thought like you, Rich, that we'd ever see that again. We've seen the true thing, and he's seen the transitions of managers as well, hasn't he? So he's been through all the different managers.
All three he's been through,
yeah. So from the sort of the heyday at the end of Wenger to Unai Emery. It didn't work for whatever reason, and now we've gone into Arteta, and he's been a stalwart all the way through. So there's some big boots to fill when that guy leaves. It really are some big boots. I'd love to see him come back as a coach. I really would.
Yeah, and one day he may well do. And I don't want people to think that this is a sentimental vote because he's leaving. I would have voted for Granit Xhaka as Player of the Year before I even knew he was going. So it's not because of that. I voted for him last season as well, personally. But I know other people voted for him elsewhere, but I thought he was our best player last season, most consistent. Neil, is it going to be a full house for Xhaka, or are you going to go with someone else?
It's very close. I think if I hadn't given it for him for the was it the performance? No, what was the award? Most improved. Then yes, then 100%. So as much as I'd love to do it a three, making it a 3, but I'll go slightly different. There's been so many. I mean, you mentioned Saliba. I was going to suggest Saliba before his injury. I thought he was awesome. Yeah, he had a couple of hairy moments here and there, but I think generally for his first proper season in the Prem, how amazing was he? He made the game look easy. His pace was very deceptive as well. You think he ain't going to get to that, and he just get there without even breaking a sweat. I think Saliba's in there, but you know what? Because I've wanted this guy to do well for so long, and you got the easy ones with Saka and Odegaard and etc. But there's another forward which I'll give it to. Because I've loved him since he came to the club. I've always wanted him to do well. I've always thought he's a promising player. I'm going to give it to Martinelli. He scored 15 or so goals, did he? I thought his pace, his energy, even the games where things weren't going so well for us, he never gave up. He always was trying to give it his all. I think Martinelli for me, before he obviously got injured, a couple of games before the end. Martinelli for me. But great tribute to Xhaka from both of you. I applaud that 100%. And I actually just because you mentioned him, Steve, I just want to give Unai Emery a shout because he's done well with Villa and he's
amazing
getting into the top 6. So well done, Unai.
He's done very well. I think they were 17th when he turned up, and he got him into the top 6.
Unbelievable, right?
Yeah,
unbelievable.
Yeah.
He's found the right club. He's comfortable, I think. So here's an interesting one. I've just been offered tickets for Beyonce at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. I've turned them down. I've told them to shove it. I'm not interested.
Good boy.
Not interested.
Well, one, it's Beyonce, and 2, it's a Tottenham ground. I mean, why would you even consider it?
My missus loves her. That'll be it, mate. And honestly,
let her go then. Let her
go. No, that's not happening. No, Rich, come on, don't be nasty.
No, okay. I'm not a fan of Beyonce. I've got to be honest.
I'm not a fan of Tottenham either.
No, exactly. What I'm saying, it's 2 in 1, isn't it? You know what I mean? If you needed 2 reasons not to go, you've got 2 reasons right there, haven't you? Straight away. So
over and over again. go-kart track.
Loki's gone for Martinelli. He says he cheers me up. He runs his arse off and will be a superstar. Yeah, I mean, Martinelli's had a great season, no doubt about that.
Great player.
John says Terry mentioned about Arteta getting sacked and what happened to the dog. John says Arteta won't ever be sacked. Well, maybe not. I don't know about ever. He eventually will. James says Erdegaard player of the season, easy. If he'd turned up in a few more of the bigger games, I would have maybe agreed with you. But for me, that's the reason why I wouldn't have given it to him. But that's a fair shout. Terry says I'm in with Loki. Martinelli all day long. Yeah, fair enough. So Martinelli's picked up a few votes as well. John says Xhaka will be missed. I liked him as an Arsenal player. He'll definitely be missed. I think we'll see that next season, definitely. John says Xhaka had some bloopers, but overall he was a real captain on the pitch. Yeah, he was, exactly. Loki says Neil knows because he agreed with you, exactly. And John says, well said, Neil, exactly.
Is this a Neil fan club on tonight, isn't it? Yeah, we can see it.
There is. Well, Neil's he's a popular guy, there's no doubt about that. Bongo Gooners says, well, you could look at all the air in the trophy cabinet.
That's true.
If you need to Tottenham, yeah, that's fair enough. In fact, I'll probably spend my time in the trophy cabinet instead of watching Beyonce.
Bit dusty in there. Bit dusty in that place, yeah.
Just well, it is. You don't want to get allergies, Rich.
No, yeah,
getting allergies would be more fun than watching Beyonce perform for 2 hours.
Oh, come on, Rich. Behave yourself.
I'm not a fan. I've got to be honest, I'm not a fan. Bongo Gooners says that 30 years for the stream. Yeah, the people that were streaming the games have got 30 years in prison. It seems crazy, doesn't it?
Yeah.
When actual real criminals that don't even get anywhere near that sort of a sentence, do they? So it just goes to show that the law isn't designed for normal people. It's designed to protect the rich people and to protect the paedophiles in the BBC and whatever. That's what the law's for. So let's ignore the law and do whatever we want. And if you want to stream the football, because I love watching it on stream, because I'm not playing Sky, because they're the real crooks, Sky, actually, for charging £150 a month for all their shite. So they're the criminals. They should be locked up, not these guys that were trying to stream it and give everybody a service that's affordable for games that are being shown live in America and in India and in Australia and everywhere else around the world. If they're showing them live on the telly, just show them here. Stop being greedy and let's get that sorted out.
Listen, Rich, I've got 1.5 million. I forgot that I put in an offshore bank account, so I'm sure HMRC will be fine with me.
No, you'll get away with that, mate. Don't worry about it.
That's it, yeah. Like I said, but yeah, 30 years. It's interesting, isn't it? 30 years for the guys doing stream, but as you say, you can embezzle all your money. You can be the head of the Conservatives. Well, I know we're going off topic here. You can embezzle all of that money and nothing happens. Oh, what a shame. How's that work? Yeah, exactly.
I mean, if Philip Schofield ever gets taken to court for his crimes, and he's not going to get 30 years, is he? Guaranteed. Do you know what I mean? And that's where it's wrong, isn't it?
Life is wrong
in this country. Everything. The laws protect the wrong people, and they punish the wrong people more severely than is necessary. I mean, 30 years for doing what? Do you know what I mean? For doing what? Allowing people to watch a game of football that's on the television anyway. It's just madness, honestly. And when are people going to start waking up to what's going on in the world and actually realizing that the whole system is not designed to help us as normal citizens of the world? That's not what it's here for. And the sooner we realize that, then we realize that, we might get somewhere. Loki says their baby killers get less. Yeah, they do. In fact, two child killers have actually been given a lot of money to find their daughter that they've already killed.
Oh, don't let me sign them.
So, do you know what I mean? So that's how fucked up the world is. Let's be honest. It really, really is. And these things that are going on, it's amazing. I don't know how people manage to keep sane in what's happened in the world in the last 25 years.
We go and watch football, go and on podcasts and drink cider heavily.
Yeah, maybe that's what you have to do. Maybe that's the only way to survive in life at the minute. Terry says there he won't get 30 years. You mean for Philip Schofield? No, he definitely won't get 30 years. He'll probably get like a £200 fine and told to behave himself because all the judges and whatnot are up to no good anyway, aren't they? That's probably why. Loki says upsetting for us good people. It is upsetting. Exactly. That's the whole point, isn't it? You know, you try and do the best that you can in your life, don't you? And yes, you have to cut corners sometimes. Everyone does. You're never going to get anywhere in life if you don't cut a few corners. Let's be honest, right? And you try and do the best that you can. And no matter what you do, everything's against you. And then you see these people at the top who are just literally committing crime after crime and against humanity and everything else, just getting away with it. And they'll punish people for doing stuff like that. Ridiculous, honestly. It just winds me up. John says it's crazy, but shows you who the courts are geared to corporate greed. Exactly. That's exactly what it is. Say laws are made by the rich to protect the rich, and that's the way it is in life, unfortunately. And no one cares about us. We just have to get on with it.
I don't care about the rich. Mate, I care about you.
No, well, you do, but unfortunately, if I get caught and get sent to court, you're not going to save me, are you? I'm still going to get sent to prison.
I'll be a character witness. I'll be a character witness.
Steve will turn up in his superhero outfit. He'll save you.
I'll do an oil protest at the front and just make sure you can't get in.
That'll do the job, actually. That'll do. In fact, why don't we all do that? Because if you do that, they won't even arrest you, so you're fine. You know. Illegally stream football while making a just stop oil protest, then you'll be fine. You'll get away with it because they'll love you because you're allowed to protest against certain things and you're not allowed to protest against other things because apparently we live in a free world and a democracy. But that's a bit of a laugh. But anyway, I might have to start a new show actually, just talking about all that kind of stuff really, because that could be quite good, couldn't it?
Well, I'll send you the WhatsApp number, mate. You could you could do it.
Well, no, do that. Yeah, I'll need to get involved in that definitely. Anyway, we were talking about Arsenal season, and overall, it's been a good enough season, hasn't it? We've enjoyed most of it. Yes, there's been downs and ups, and we're looking forward, obviously, to what happens in the summer. And let's hope that it's a good summer, and next season we can be sitting here and reviewing the season, but with a little trophy to show and to enjoy and to have, watched, which would be nice, wouldn't it? So Terry says, I hate dressing in Luton Town colours. Well, no.
You so are, Terry. You so are.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, I think you might have to. I think that's what we should do when we play Luton now. I think we should all wear the Luton kit just for a laugh that day when we play Luton.
Mate, I look like I've been tangoed as it is, let alone actually put some orange on me as well.
Well, seriously. That's true, yeah. I used to like the kit when it was white, actually. When they had them white tops when they played in the 90s and that, they looked quite cool, didn't they, Luton? But anyway.
I think Terry's in a bit of a negative mood today. I think he's had a few boiler call-outs because normally he's a little bit. I've got some. Well, I know. Negative vibe Terry tonight.
I think he's missed your positivity, Steve. That's what it is.
It's coming back. It's happening. It's going to happen. Don't worry about that.
Good. That's what we want to see. So anyway, that has been the 22-23 season, and yes, it had some great moments. It had some disappointing moments, but that's the life of an Arsenal fan. Let's be honest. We wouldn't have it any other way, would we? Let's be honest. No, who would want to be Man City winning everything every single season? What would you talk about? What would you talk about? Honestly, it'd be boring, wouldn't it? That's why Man City's fans don't have any podcasts or anything because it's just boring, isn't it? Oh yeah, we won again 5-0. Okay, brilliant. That's it. What can you say?
No, I think Rich. The thing is, most of their fans they can't actually string a sentence together.
Well, yeah, there's that as well, obviously. But
are you Tottenham in disguise? That's what I'm going to say to you fans. There you go. The very fact they turn their back, jump up and down whilst people are playing football tells you everything you need to know about them.
That's a good point.
Yeah, that's just what they like. There was a pub near where I live using the Sky Sports feed from their house, but Sky found out and brought them to court, but lost the case. Did they? Well, I'm surprised they lost the case actually, because that is kind of illegal to broadcast to show one of them broadcast to the public, isn't it? It's all right to show it in your house and have friends around, but anyway, they shouldn't be illegal anyway. Let's be honest. Watching telly shouldn't be illegal, should it? It shouldn't be illegal to watch telly. Ridiculous. That's basically what it is, isn't it? Showing something on telly is illegal. It's like showing we can't show a podcast on YouTube because it's illegal to show it. Do you know what I mean? How can possibly entertaining people or giving people some sort of entertainment be illegal? It's ridiculous.
No,
anyway.
I mean, when you watch Tottenham lose as much as they have this season with managers and Richarlison,
exactly.
That's the best variety performance I've.
what should have happened was whoever was defending those guys for streaming, they should have said, look, they streamed all of the Tottenham games and they give everybody so much entertainment that they don't deserve to go to prison for that. They should be given money back. Knighthoods and stuff like that, shouldn't they? The freedom of the borough and stuff like that is what they should have been given. Anyway, Bongo Goodness says we almost won the league. Well, we didn't almost win the league, did we? We kind of was up top of the league, but we didn't really almost win it, did we? Anyway, John says, great show, lads, and thanks again. Cheers to everybody in the chat. Yeah, cheers to everybody in the chat. Mark C says, second unsung hero, Eddie Nketiah, didn't let us down when filling in for Jesus.
No, not having that.
Okay, no, I'm not having that. But anyway, you're entitled to your vote, Mark, and we appreciate your vote. And there you go. Eddie got a vote for Unsung of the Year. Loki says, Spurs hold their own management. That's a great shout. That's comment of the night. That's one comment of the night. Actually,
that's it. Yeah,
indeed, they have their own management month. That is true. And Loki says, have a good night and yourself, mate. So that is the 22-23 season. We didn't win a trophy. But who cares? Because it's not about winning trophies. It's about having nice dogs and having great atmosphere and having everybody all pulling in the same direction. So that's what matters. The next season is going to be more of that. It's going to be great. But no, seriously, it was a much better season and great moments to enjoy. And the good thing is we've been able to enjoy it as a little group here as well, haven't we? And that's been one of the main things. Win or lose, we've enjoyed it. It's good to have Steve back as well. Steve, was it good to be back on the show? We've certainly missed you.
I've missed it. You know, my life, work, and everything's getting in the way. But you know, and I think the introduction of the clown cannon by the end of the year, I think that should be next year's. Who gets fired out the clown cannon, other than Harry Kane? No, mate. I love coming on. Thank you for having me. I really enjoy it. You know, I love the banter that always goes on. Neil's tweets I love them to bits. Honestly, I genuinely like my day up. So I'm looking forward to next season. I'm going to miss the fact we haven't got any football at the moment. I miss going up to the Emirates and all the, you know, I complain about it, but I'm actually going to miss it. I'm looking forward to just bigger and better things for us. And hey, you know what? If we could do, you know, you say one cup, we got Champions League and we win the Prem, I think it's a good season for us. Come on, I think it'd be all right.
Love it.
We'd be happy enough with that, wouldn't we? I'm sure.
I think so. I think that'd be a 9, 8.5 maybe out of 10.
Mate, I might give Arteta 8.5 if we win the league next year.
That's it. Yeah, we win the league and get the Champo. Yeah, win Champo, then that'll be it. Yeah, we're good. But like you know,
if he wins the league and the Champions League, he might get an 8.5 maybe.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, 8.5. So 8.25. Something like that.
About that. Yeah. If he wins the FA Cup, he'll get a 10 because that's the most important one, as we know.
That's it. There you go.
But anyway, it was good to see you, Stephen. Neil as well. Good to see you again.
Thank you for having me on. It's been a bit of a marathon, even though I came late, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you so much, Steve. Wonderful seeing you back, your smile, and just want your positivity back on par next season. So
it's coming. Come on, don't worry about
good
that.
To hear that. And Rich, I was absolutely shocked by your score. I was quite impressed with 7, but yeah,
he's softening up in his old age.
Yeah, I think he's softening up a little bit. But,
I'm not blind to the improvements that's happened. I'm just frustrated that the same mistakes are also happening, and that's something that needs to change. But you know, I'm prepared to accept that 84 points, 88 goals is actually a really good effort. And if we can repeat anything like that next season, then we're going to be in for a chance of winning something.
Absolutely. But just want to say thank you to both of you, and obviously everyone in the chat that always make it such a special stream. So thanks everyone. Listen, I have to drop off very quickly, so I'm going to shoot off.
Been great, by the way. Yeah, the chat has been great.
Thank you all on the chat, and thank you to you too. I'll see you soon. All right.
Take care, mate.
And yourself, mate. Take it easy. We'll speak very soon.
Bye.
So Neil was late coming in his first game, but there you go. That's always good.
That's Neil. He's Neil.
That's why we love him. So that has been the season review. It's been good looking back on the highs and some lows as well. I'll be back to do the women's season review. We haven't quite got a date for that yet due to sort of people being a bit busy. So it'll probably end up being next week now, but we'll get that sorted out as well. And then we'll probably have a couple of weeks off, and then we'll be back with some new stuff for the summer and for the new season and all that kind of stuff. We look forward to that. And obviously it'd be good to have Steve back on board with us again. Bongo Luna says, stay healthy indeed.
Thank you, sir.
John says the Europa League's going to penalties. Always going to penalties again. It tends to go to penalties in the Europa League final, doesn't it? See, we missed out on all that. We could have been in it, but anyway.
I could have been at Bodo Glimt, but nobody got me a ticket. Sorry. I was going to go to Norway. I will never forgive him for that.
No, it would have been cold, but it would have been good, I'm sure. So yeah, so that is that then. Thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks for you guys in the chat. Don't forget, give us a like and subscribe. I'll be back for the women's season review. I'll put the date out soon. It'll be next week sometime probably now, but we'll get that done. That's going to be good. Thanks for watching. Thanks to Steve, obviously, for coming on, and to Neil as well, and everybody for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and we've got some great stuff coming up next season, so stay with us for that as well, because it is going to be good. Loki says, cheers all, and look after yourselves and yourself, mate. Thanks again for everybody for watching. We'll see you soon, and of course, as always, come on, you Gunners.
Come on,
you Gunners. Come on, you Gunners. Let's do it.
Gives it to Saka on the right far side. Bukayo Saka running that loop shot, cuts inside Saka, tries to shot for 25 yards. It's in the far corner. What a great goal that is! Bukayo Saka. The comeback is complete. Arsenal 2, Manchester United 1.